Out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GBNews, and that's what sets us apart.
Good evening and welcome to the biggest show on Saturday night, UK TV. It's the Saturday 5, live from the GBNews studios in London, England, from left to right across your screen or radio dial. I'm Will Kingston, joined by Dr. Renee Honderkamp, Alex Armstrong, Trey Lowe, and for better or worse, Kai Wilshaw. Tonight on the show, oh the irony, foreign and international law may scupper the Chagos deal.
Labour continue to prove they hate women.
And digital ID is still coming through the back door this time.
And Trump isn't a friend of the UK.
And all hail Andy Burnham, King of the North.
As he marches on Westminster, it's Saturday night, and this is the Saturday 5. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, movements are afoot. There are marches towards Westminster. The King of the North, Andy Burnham, has made his intentions very clear. He is coming for Parliament and he is coming for Keir Starmer's seat. Whether he will get there, we will discuss that this evening. Of course, we want to know what your views are on that as well. Please send them through to gbnews.com/your say. And don't forget to get your questions in for Ask the Five. No topics are off limits. Of course, we've got our Saturday scrap coming up at the start of the second hour. And as always, you can vote on that as well. There's a few cracking topics to choose from. But before we start addressing the news of the day and tearing each other apart while we do it, it's your Saturday night news with Sevilla Wensler.
Thank you and good evening. It's just gone 6 o'clock. These were headlines. US President Donald Trump has paid tribute to the great and very brave soldiers of the United Kingdom after previously claiming NATO allies stayed away from the front lines during the war in Afghanistan. It comes after the Prime Minister, Mr. Trump's comments directly with the US President in a conversation today. Sir Keir Starmer had called the remarks insulting and frankly appalling, while Prince Harry also defended the bravery of UK troops on Truth Social. The US President said Britons were among the greatest of all warriors, as he acknowledged the 457 who died and many who were badly injured. Federal agents have shot another person dead in Minneapolis, according to reports. The Minneapolis police chief, is giving a press conference where he has just said it's believed the shooting victim was a 37-year-old man who is a Minneapolis resident and an American citizen. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz called for an immediate end to the Trump administration's immigration enforcement operations in the state. A video has been circulating on X appearing to show the shooting. In the footage, a number of masked federal agents can be seen surrounding a man. The reported shooting comes just over 2 weeks since Renee Nicole Good was shot dead by an ICE agent in Minneapolis. Andy Burnham has confirmed he wants to run for Parliament following days of speculation. There are fears among the Prime Minister's supporters that Mr Burnham could mount a future challenge to his leadership. Burnham is currently Mayor of Greater Manchester and in a statement insisted that he wants to back the Labour government, not to undermine it, adding that the decision to announce his intention had been difficult. In other news now, Ukraine's capital has come under what the mayor has described as a massive attack, leaving hundreds of thousands without power or heating. Explosions were heard in Kyiv and Kharkiv, with authorities reporting that at least one person has been killed and another 15 injured. This latest attack comes after the first direct talks between Ukraine and Russia on the US plan to end the war. The talks in Abu Dhabi are continuing today. Now, the government says ministers will be given new powers to intervene in failing police forces in England and Wales. It's after a row over West Midlands Police's decision to ban Israeli football fans from a match against Aston Villa in Birmingham last year. It led to the retirement of the Chief Constable, Craig Guilford. Current legislation, which prevents ministers from intervening directly, will be changed, with the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood saying police forces should be held accountable to Parliament and the public. Measures are set to be announced on Monday. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to the Saturday 5.
Thank you, Sophia. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is Saturday night, and you are with the Saturday 5 over the next 3 hours, the biggest debates, the hottest topics and the most entertaining interviews. But before we crack on, I think there is something which is on all of your minds that we do need to discuss, and that is, Kai, what on earth is going on with that shirt?
What shirt? This is my Thunderbirds outfit. I think it's quite fetching.
Well, Thunderbirds should go. Isn't that what they say?
Very good.
Right, well, you've proved one of the iron laws of GB News, and that is that right-wingers are inevitably better dressed than those on the left.
Yeah.
But please don't let that interfere with your impressions of Kai's political analysis, and that's where we're going to go first, because he's going to cover the breaking news, which is on Andy Burnham. Kai, take us away.
Yes, indeed. All hail Andy Burnham, King of the North. If you've missed it, that breaking news that Andy Burnham will indeed seek selection in Gorton and Denton. He's asking the NEC, as we speak, sending a letter in to Shabana Mahmood, who chairs the National Executive Committee. And he said this in his letter, that there is a direct threat to everything Greater Manchester has always been about, from a brand of politics which seeks to pit people against each other. And isn't he right? This Labour government, a year and a bit in, it's at a bit of a low point, isn't it? Now, an interesting reaction to earlier today came from a senior Labour MP who said he sunk our conference this year and is now overshadowing a great week for the PM. Well, let's take a look at how that great week is going. The Times last Saturday said that Keir Starmer was under pressure to sack Wes Streeting. Times on Monday, the £8.2 billion cost of U-turns. The Times on Wednesday, dither and delay on the social media ban, urged by Rayner not to capitulate on election pledges. I can go on. It's been a tough week and a tough few months for this Labour government. So I agree with Sadiq Khan, who says you need the best teams with all the best talent. It would be an act of complete sacrifice and weakness by Keir Starmer to show that this government isn't ready to bring the whole Labour family together to try and turn this ship around. So I welcome it, and I hope the NEC won't block it. What do you think? Is that a realistic position to take? I don't think so.
I'll throw it to Alex here, because we know that the NEC is filled with Starmerites and Starmer friendlies. How realistic do you think this challenge is, and do you think it would be a good thing?
Well, I think it'll be a very good thing for us on the right. I think there's just been this lie that only the right have psychodramas. This has been playing itself out in the back wings of Labour and the back doors of the Labour Party for a very long time, as you very well know, Kai, actually. Yeah. We just don't talk about it very often, do we? But this also throws that party into complete chaos. There are 5 leadership contenders. Shabana Mahmood, who sits and monitors a lot of the NEC stuff as well. Angela Rayner, who wants the top job. You've got Wes Streeting. You've got Andy Burnham. And you've got Ed Miliband. None of them wants Andy Burnham to come back because he's direct competition to them. So this psychodrama is going to be absolutely brilliant, least of all the Prime Minister.
But this is exactly how you get rid of all that psychodrama, isn't it? Not block, not block.
Can I just say,
bring him into the tent.
No.
Bring
Can I
Angela
just
Rayner
say,
back, promote
the last few weeks, you have been banging on about people like Robert Jenrick being chancellors. Well, this bloke is Mayor of Manchester. He's promised to serve out his term, and now he's going to throw that in your face. That shows you how dedicated he is.
Can I just say, we've been talking about these personalities and egos competing against each other. I think it's actually worth calling out what Andy Burnham stands for. He's previously said the 4 horsemen of Britain's apocalypse are deindustrialisation, privatisation, austerity and Brexit. That's certainly not the root causes of the problems I would point out.
Really?
Is this just another socialist coming into the Labour Party trying to take them further to the left?
Yes. Yes. That's it. You don't say
how can you disagree that austerity, Brexit, deindustrialisation have all been total carnage for this economy? I know you haven't been around that long, but
what's so
anybody
bad about
who
Brexit? Can you just give me the economic case for Brexit, and be careful what you say, because I do have the stats.
You do your stats and I'll do mine.
You tell me, Carl. You're making
I'll give you one example,
obtuse claims about Brexit and the economy, but you don't actually know what they are.
I'll give you one example, though. This whole thing about getting our sovereignty back and we're going to be in charge. Clearly, we're not. I mean, America's pushing us all over the place. That's the wrong thing. But, I mean, again, austerity, deindustrialisation, Brexit, the rest of it, you think there's something else that would trump any of those four horsemen, as he calls it? What would you say?
Yes, I was. Pretty much the opposite of everything he said. Higher taxes, mass migration, and a loss of the social cohesion that this country
Which
once
he,
had.
to be fair, which is what he will bring more of. But I think there's also a little bit of hypocrisy here because 4.2 million people in this country are being denied their votes, some of them for a second time, come May. And the reason they've given is that it will cost each council £30,000 to hold their elections and they don't want to waste taxpayers' money. By Andy Burnham resigning his mayorship in Manchester ahead of his time, that's going to cost the British taxpayers in Manchester £500,000. So it's OK for Andy, but it's not OK for people who might vote Reform to vote.
And that is the argument that we're hearing from the NEC, who are trying to say that this is not the right thing to do. It's not that this is a threat for Keir Starmer. But I do want to ask Kai, we are sometimes, and you know, not everyone in the country is as well informed as GB News viewers, we are sometimes guilty of playing inside baseball. How much outside of the political bubble does this really matter?
You know what? I totally agree with you. Most people don't know who Kemi Badenoch is, even, probably, I'd wager. But if we're looking at those people who do know who Andy Burnham is, right, and I think Labour is in dire need of some popular politicians, he's the only national Labour figure who has a net positive rating
I'm so
in the polls.
I'm so glad you said it.
No, not in
Beep, I've got a buzzer. I've got a
Alex,
buzzer.
can I finish? Ipsos has him on +1 net.
Interesting.
Nationally, and +25 in the Northwest, as you say.
Alex, thank you, Will. Let's talk about these so-called net positive ratings, because I, again, have the data, Kai, and it's just like a socialist's worst nightmare. And the biggest problem with these net ratings is that it basically asks, do you like this person? Do you like them a lot? Do you not know who they are? And Andy Burnham is one of the politicians where the vast majority of the people who've been asked about Andy Burnham, 32% of them said don't know. That massively outstrips anyone
that compared
who's
to
got
other
an opinion
national
with him.
candidates. I've looked at the same.
Yes, I can tell you right now because I have the data in front of me. Only 8% don't know who Nigel Farage is. 38% don't know who Ed Davey is. Funny that, because no one knows who he is. Kemi Badenoch, 22%.
So you're telling me that Andy Burnham...
42% don't know who Andy Burnham is. 49% don't know who Zach Polanski is. Only 9% don't know who Keir Starmer is. So the two people who actually people know about in this country are Nigel Farage, Keir Starmer, and you might argue Kemi Badenoch's up there too. Jeremy Corbyn, 14%. No one knows who Andy Burnham is. Nobody cares.
That is such a straw man argument, Alex. I expected better from you. What nonsense, as always, from your mouth.
I mean, you are using the word straw man rather a lot this afternoon before we even came on air. You've used it rather a lot. I would think that you, as a Labour person, would consider this to be an absolute nightmare. This is going to throw the Labour Party into complete disarray because it's going to show the factions that exist. And the faction is a very stark one for the British public. Do you want more of what you have right now that you hate and is destroying the country, or do you want even worse from over here?
I agree that it risks that, but it doesn't need to be that way. If he's welcomed into the fold, welcomed into the cabinet, and bring the team together, bring the best talent together.
What I can say is that he's definitely being welcomed by the Fabians today, hasn't he? He's been welcomed by Lucy Powell, he's been welcomed by Sadiq Khan, and I'm sure they're over the moon to have another Fabian potentially run the country.
And in a classic Alex Armstrong semi-plug, he will, of course, be covering that on his show later on. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Great British Giveaway, and you have just a few days left to see how you could become one of our biggest cash winners to date, with an incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash. Someone is guaranteed to win it all, and that someone really could be you. That is absolutely correct. Here's all the details you need, so make sure you don't miss out.
It's the final week to see how you could become our biggest cash prize winner to date, as there's a simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Go on that dream holiday, buy that brand new car, or just relax in the knowledge that the rest of the year could be on us. £85,000 really could be yours to make 2026 your best year yet. But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck, ladies and gentlemen. Before we head to the break, these are shocking live pictures emerging from Minneapolis after a man has died after being shot by federal ICE agents today. It's, of course, the second fatal shooting involving federal agents this month during a surge in immigration enforcement in the northern US city. We'll be covering this as more details come to light. At the moment, we don't know a great deal about the actual context behind the shooting, but it is potentially a powder keg in Minnesota now, which we are going to be monitoring very closely throughout the evening. But first, after the break, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be covering the delicious irony that the Chagos deal may well be scuppered as a result of our good friend international law. All that coming up on the People's Channel on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Please get in contact at gbnews.com/your say. And of course, you can get your questions in for Ask the Five in Saturday 5 Extra in our third hour. There are messages coming through thick and fast already. A lot of nuanced commentary on the issues of the day, but by far the thing that has got you hot and bothered the most is Kai's terrible fashion sense. We have heard Kai has been let out of prison in error. We've heard Kai enter the dragon. Wilshaw Bruce Lee would be proud of you with that outfit from the 70s. LOL. I will add a Rufflecopter in for good measure.
Jesus.
That's one for the kids. Maybe.
How old are these kids? 25-year-olds?
Look, I'm hip.
You're old. You are old.
I'm hip. I'm with it.
And I'm obviously too old.
I don't know. Does Renee even know what a Rufflecopter is anyway? Moving on.
For anyone who doesn't know, Rufflecopter, I think, was something that was said about 15 years ago, meaning rolling on the floor laughing, and then I think copter was put on for good measure. Anyway, enough of such frivolity.
Like the best jokes, they need to be explained.
Exactly. I'm going to continue the debate with the Chagos deal, or the Chagos surrender, I should say. Now, look, I'll be honest, this is an incredibly difficult story to report on in the media because it is incomprehensible. It is absolutely incomprehensible. And I think even Donald Trump can't quite get his head around just how ridiculous this deal is, as we heard from him in Davos this week.
That they, when they originally were going to do it, they were talking about doing some concept of ownership. But now they're looking to essentially just do a lease and sell it. And I'm against that. It's a reasonably nothing like Greenland, but it's a reasonably important area of the globe. Not to anywhere near Greenland, but I think they should keep it. I don't know why they're doing it. Do they need money?
Well, Mr. President, I do understand how you may have got this slightly wrong, because it is very unusual to give away something but then to pay to give it away as well. So unfortunately for us, it doesn't make sense on an economic level. It doesn't make sense when it comes to people who are concerned about self-determination. The Chagosians have had no say in this process, and they don't want to be left under the thumb of Mauritius. They are very comfortable being part of the United Kingdom. And it doesn't make sense when it comes to international law. The one thing that Keir Starmer and his mate Lord Hermer have said is what the binding reason for why we need to do this. Now, in one of the most delicious of ironies, a treaty which has curiously not arisen in the public discourse until late is the 1966 Treaty on Chagos, which has been mentioned and is potentially going to scupper this deal, because that treaty relies upon the UK maintaining sovereignty over these islands. It is a delicious irony, because Keir Starmer's one binding principle that he abides by is international law. I've been thinking about international law as we've been looking at this story today, and it has hit me in a flash that the reason why Keir Starmer and this Labor government continue to cling on to it, as others are decrying the death of the rules-based international order, is that it's an excuse. It is an excuse not to think about the implications of your actions. It's an excuse not to recognise that real power has always been the way that international relations is dictated. And it's an excuse for them to basically not have any conviction, because they can say, well, them's the rules. If the Chagos deal tells us anything about the future of the United Kingdom, it's that any treaty or piece of international law should be junked if it is not in the best interests of the United Kingdom. We can only hope that this awful agreement is junked as a result of that international treaty. Alex, what do you make of this latest update in the saga that is Chagos deal?
It is absolutely damning. If the Prime Minister wasn't on the ropes already with Andy Burnham about to enter Parliament, he will be when this bill gets absolutely decimated, because it will be one of the biggest cock-ups in British political history. He has failed to recognise that a treaty signed with America gave Britain full sovereignty over those islands. That's now got him in hot water again, having to pull the entire bill. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for a group of people who have made their whole political sort of, monologuing about international law. Well, clearly they don't even understand international law, and I think Keir Starmer will be forced to resign even if Andy Burnham isn't there, because this is damning.
Renee, there's a more sinister interpretation, and that is that they were aware of this treaty and they were just pushing it to one side, hoping no one would notice.
So as you were saying that was actually what was going through my mind. I think, look, they've got Lord Hermer, who was instrumental in this deal, apparently, and he knows law very, very well. So I can't believe for a second that they really didn't know about it. I think they've been tripped up this week by Trump, which caught them by surprise, but now they are treading very carefully around Trump, obviously, because whilst they want to push back a little bit, they also want to keep him on side. And I think for us, this is fantastic. For them, I think this is another embarrassment. It will be another U-turn and something else which they plan to do and now can't.
Kai, do you think this will end up being a U-turn from the Labor government? Do you think this is enough to scupper the deal?
I don't know. I think I think what they're trying to do now by pulling this bill is at least to work out whether what the significance of the treaty, the 1966 treaty, is, whether new legislation overrides it. That much is unclear. Whether they were hiding it or not, who can say? I actually, for what it's worth, think take the win, let this quietly disappear. I don't think this is the hill that this Labour government needs to die on. As you pointed out, as I pointed out, there's plenty more hot topics, plenty more issues where they're going to have to be strong against Trump. Yes.
Keep them.
Yeah, I think that's what I think.
Have you said that on previous shows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you sure? I have.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I have. It's you who was trying to characterise my position as different.
Well, I just think it's about time we hold these people to their, their standards.
Oh, sorry.
Like, I think the only danger of it is you then can't accuse America of imperialism if you're more or less doing it yourself. Keep the Chagos, which goes against the ICJ, right? We gave it back to...
I will argue, Trey.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think probably in the spirit of where the world is going, they should keep it.
I'd argue... It was advisory.
It was advisory,
yes.
And that's what I was going to say. It wasn't actually a ruling, it was advisory, and they probably shouldn't even have bothered with the whole process anyway.
The difficulty is, it's very hard when you've got left-wing people like the Prime Minister going out saying Greenland belongs to the Greenlanders. Yeah. It is a colony, Greenland, and it should be them to determine. They haven't given Chagosians a single vote. We've had the exiled First Minister here on this programme a lot, and I think if you're at least going to give up someone's land, you should let them vote for it. And the Prime Minister and the Labour Party have refused to honour that, so they're being caught as hypocrites at the same time.
It sounds hypocritical.
To give the counter-argument, though, all of this, yes, it's advisory, but it would be the prelude to Mauritian legal action. It's likely if we've continued and kept the Chagos. But then it also still, if we don't have some sort of deal, China and other nations can set up bases on outer islands, apparently joint exercises nearby. And the idea was that at least having this deal would prevent that, as I gather.
Just in the way that the Hong Kong deal stopped China moving for 50 years.
Exactly. It may be nonsense.
And I would add, even if this leads to further actions being taken against the United Kingdom or the United States, so what? The whole problem with international law is there's no enforcement mechanisms that actually make it binding. That's the whole problem with this. Like, I'll ask you the question, if this leads to other more binding international court decisions against the UK, so what? What happens?
Which it likely won't, anyway.
Sure, but if it does, so what?
The bodies that would have voted against this were not part of this advisory. It was a very small chunk of the ICJ who decided to do this. It was lobbied by China in the main.
And there was a Chinese judge on that court who you can make the argument was compromised, given that every single Chinese judge is compromised.
Oh.
But the problem is, though, don't you think it's say...
Allegedly. I don't want the CCP coming up me. Allegedly, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you not think it sets a dangerous precedent, though? I mean, because Argentina could literally waltz into the Falklands again. I don't think we've got what it takes to send a task force 7,000 miles, wherever it is, to get down to the Falklands.
Do you think Chagos has ever belonged to Mauritius?
No, from what I understand about the history of Chagos, it was got after the French, Napoleon. We agreed to give it back. That's as simple as that,
isn't it? It's never belonged to Mauritius.
It's never belonged to it. It was administered from Mauritius, and it's understood to be part of the Mauritian...
Well, there is more to come in this saga, no doubt, but we're going to return to the images coming out of the US at the moment. These are live pictures from Minneapolis. Wow. So these are obviously incredibly hostile conditions. A man has died after being shot by federal agents today. So what you're seeing there, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is smoke from fire. From fire, or potentially from the tear gas or the weapons that ICE are using to control the crowd. Again, this is still a very much, well, I was going to say the fog of war. This is very much a breaking situation. So we're trying to work out more details as they come to light. But the one thing we do know, Alex, is that this is now a powder keg in Minneapolis, because you have activists who are now openly trying to, in many instances, fight and put themselves in the way of ICE agents who are being put in there by the federal government.
Let's remember, these are the same activists, left-wing activists, who were attacking Donald Trump supporters for, you know, going to the Capitol and raiding the Capitol, who are now rioting openly on the streets against a government agency. The hypocrisy stinks, doesn't it? But also, I just think that ICE are doing their job that they're paid to do by the government. If you don't like that, vote out the president at the ballot box. It's as simple as that. You cannot use political violence to get what you want, and that is exactly what is happening in Minneapolis, and it's being spurred on by politicians up and down on the left.
Yeah,
it really is.
We should say that the United States federal government are within their rights under the Constitution to put ICE agents in there in order to enforce immigration law. There will be more to come on this story as the evening progresses. Before we go to a break, Trey, what do you have for us coming up?
So I'm going to be speaking that Trump isn't a friend of the UK after his comments, which were absolutely terrible about our British forces.
Stay with us. That'll be coming up after the break on the People's Channel, GBNews.
It's been very lively tonight.
It is.
Sorry.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, are you heading away this weekend? Storm Ingrid is bringing some very unsettled weather to Portugal and Spain. It's pretty wet and windy elsewhere too. The Canary Islands, though, still seeing plenty of dry weather, not especially warm, however. Very wet weather into Spain and Portugal, and some unsettled weather, thunderstorms across parts of Italy as well as the Balkans. It does look drier, though, towards Greece for the weekend. That wet weather will push eastwards later, though. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Often cloudy with spells of rain over the coming days, with some localised flooding possible, particularly where we have Met Office weather warnings issued. And there is some more wet and windy weather to come as we head into next week. And it's all down to areas of low pressure, one by one, swinging in from the North Atlantic. And even this area of low pressure here this evening will still continue to bring spells of rain across parts of Wales and then later on into Northern Ireland. Still could create some difficult driving conditions and some localised flooding. We'll see a brief dry spell across parts of the southwest before another band of heavy showers starts to move through, and for many areas of the country it is going to be wet and quite cloudy, and possibly even some snow across high ground in Scotland. This leads us into Sunday, and once again it is going to be very unsettled. Across Scotland there will be some spells of rain, this turning to hill snow, perhaps a little dry across the very far north of Scotland, away from any showers in the Northern Isles. Northern Ireland will see some spells of rain, this could be heavy at times, similar across northern parts of England. And then we've got this very heavy band of showers slowly skirting its way eastwards in from the southwest. So Sunday, yes, there will be more clouds, some spells of rain, and quite blustery at times, particularly around western coast, though winds generally easing through the course of the day. But under cloud, under any spells of rain, it is going to be feeling that much chillier, particularly around any eastern coasts. Quite a brisk easterly breeze coming in here, adding on to the chill of things. But otherwise, temperatures themselves around about average for the time of year, highs reaching around 8 degrees Celsius in the south. Into Monday, a drier start for some. Plenty of showers, though, feeding into northeastern coast, still falling as snow across parts of Scotland. Then another band of very wet and windy weather starting to push in from the west. This, too, later on could bring us some hill snow across Scotland and northern parts of England. It's going to remain unsettled into next week. Another area of low pressure hitting us on Tuesday and feeling very cold.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, ladies and gentlemen. As Alex correctly pointed out before the break, it has been very lively tonight, and that is in no small part as a result of the images that we are seeing coming out of the United States at the moment. Another person, a 51-year-old man, has been killed by ICE agents. We have live footage coming out of Minnesota now, and it is bracing footage indeed. These are live pictures that we are going to get up coming from Minneapolis. It's the second fatal shooting involving federal agents this month during a surge in immigration enforcement in the northern US city. Now, Trump and the federal government is within their rights to use ICE agents in order to enforce immigration law under the US Constitution. Left-wing activists take its seat in a very different way, and that's led to the footage that you're seeing on screens now. There is a salutary lesson, perhaps, for the United Kingdom in this footage, and that is if you do have the next government that comes in and has an agenda which includes deportations or mass deportations, so say if you have Reform or the Conservatives or a potential Reform Conservative coalition coming in looking to enforce immigration law in this way. Alex, I'll throw to you here. Do you think potentially that you will see the same type of violence and unrest on the streets of the United Kingdom?
Yeah, I certainly think we will. In fact, I think the Reform needs to be braced for that, because they have got a mass deportations plan, which would possibly be up to 1 million people or more. They've said hundreds of thousands, but I suspect that will broaden in scope, as Trump's has. Of course, we know that the left are very organised when it comes to this stuff. They're still out protesting Palestine years later. So inevitably, if you see some of the footage where there's activists blowing whistles, trying to disrupt vehicles on the road in Democrat states, and the Tories as well have the same plan, by the way. So that, Kemi Badenoch has said that she would like to have a nice style enforcer. This is exactly what would happen. We know it.
You make a really interesting point, don't you, about the left? Because I just looked up some stats, and in the 8 years of the Obama government, he deported via ICE 3.1 million people, with a peak being 407,000 in 2012. Trump, in his first 4 years, deported 932,000, but his peak in a year was 269,000. So Obama deported far more people, and yet the left is much
I would
louder.
explain why the difference is. There was a lack of inflammatory language around what Obama was doing, and I suspect over here would be the same. I cannot imagine Nigel Farage going around speaking the way that Trump does, talking about Somalia and God knows, and inflaming people. The fact that, Obama did 3 million people without this unrest just tells you that. It's the language that these leaders are using that's causing this kind of violence. The fact that they shot, a mother like that, and they blamed her for her own death when clearly it wasn't as simple as that. I think that's what we're not going to see over here.
Well, I think there may be
see
something in that, Alex, and I do know that Nigel Farage has been very careful with his language when it comes to the topics of mass migration and multiculturalism and the potential for deportations. This is something we are going to keep following as the evening progresses. It just feels like, and I dearly hope it's not the case, but it just feels like there is a powder keg in Minnesota at the moment, and tensions are incredibly high. Let's go to our next topic. Trey, what have you got for us?
So I want to talk about Trump isn't a friend, and I'm going to do it a bit different today, because I spoke to a friend of mine. I said I won't say his name, but he actually fought in those wars. He was one of these people that Trump was speaking about, which was pretty much saying that they did nothing. We lost 457 soldiers, I believe it was. And when he shares his story with me, it actually saddens me. He had a situation where there was an insurgent pointing an RPG at him And luckily, it didn't go off. He then raised his rifle at this insurgent, and his rifle didn't go off. And I think about this story, my friend. It's an incredible story. He wouldn't even be here to tell his tale. And when you hear the commander-in-chief of the most powerful nation in NATO say that your sacrifice meant absolutely nothing, it's devastating. The other thing that he shared with me is that he has WhatsApp groups with a lot of other servicemen and women. And the level of suicide ideation and suicide that happens for servicemen is absolutely disgraceful. And to have someone who himself didn't actually fight in those wars and found reasons not to be drafted, saying that their sacrifice was in vain, I think is absolutely disgusting. It is terrible. And, you know, it's as simple as this. I don't think Donald Trump is a friend of us. And yeah, I know he's just issued his new thing on Truth Social about talking about our brave servicemen and women, but I think that was done under duress. I don't think that was something he feels intrinsically. And for all of those NATO soldiers that died, the president may not see your sacrifice, but I do, and I'd like to think that you guys do too.
I'll read Trump's recent remarks on Truth Social. These came out only in the last couple of hours. The great and very brave soldiers of the United Kingdom will always be with the United States of America. In Afghanistan, 457 died, many were badly injured, and they were among the greatest of all warriors. It's a bond too strong to ever be broken. The UK military, with tremendous heart and soul, is second to none except for the USA. We love you all and always will. President Donald J. Trump. Renee, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, this was a misstep by Trump and it was very insulting to our veterans. There isn't much more that you can say about that. And I think someone's had a word with him and he's had no option but to issue that statement. What more can I say? I think our veterans don't get the respect that they deserve, and we should all, you know, give thanks to these people because they do give up their lives for us.
Yeah, indeed. And this is obviously part of Trump's attack on NATO in general. He was being very specific about NATO, and he's continued that attack on and on. But it's nice to see, because I agree with you, it was a horrible attack on our veterans. And I know many veterans, many of them watch GB News, and we love them here at GB News, and we always support our veterans in Britain, and we need to do better. But if anything, I'd point the finger to Keir Starmer, who has attacked our veterans, taken immunity away from our veterans.
The legacy
moved illegal migrants into army barracks. So I think it's very difficult for the left, who are these plastic patriots, to point the finger at Donald Trump for hurty words, which weren't very nice. But when things do become action, they're nowhere to be seen defending our veterans. Funny that.
The last word on this topic.
Last word. What bad faith arguing once again from Alex Armstrong. You heard it just now. ICE agents in Minneapolis. Apparently it's the fault of the left, and apparently Trump's NATO comments. No, look over there. It's Keir Starmer moving people into empty army barracks. What errant nonsense.
That was many words.
Yeah.
Well, and that is enough for now. But
I didn't have any before, so I want to get some in.
We will be speaking to a former veteran in the second hour to get his thoughts on this, so please do stay tuned for that. Alex, what have you got for us?
Yes, well, I want to talk about digital ID, because banning under-16s using social media is a backdoor for digital ID. Labour and the Tories are now flirting with a social media ban for under-16s, and on the surface, it sounds sensible. Protect children from addictive algorithms, harmful content, online predators. Fine, I am all for that. But policies aren't judged by intentions. They're judged by the consequences. And to enforce an age ban at scale, platforms will need more than a tick box birthday in order to verify you. They will need age verification. And age verification, in practice, means digital identification. That's where the danger lies, because once you build a system that requires proof of identity to access social media, you've created the infrastructure that doesn't just apply to children, by the way, it applies to all of us. And today, it's going to be prove you're over 16. Tomorrow, it's going to be prove who you are to post, comment, share, or even browse the internet. A tool sold as child protection quietly becomes a universal online ID system. And young people, the very group this is supposedly protecting, end up growing up in a world where anonymity no longer exists. This is the backdoor problem, isn't it? The same problem Labour seem to have time and time again. No wonder why they're not opposing the Tory bill all of a sudden. You don't introduce a national digital ID card by announcing it, because you look at the backlash they've got quite a lot. You introduce it through incremental regulation. That sounds reasonable in isolation. It's the Fabian socialist way, and before the public realises it, you are all going to be supporting digital ID.
Now, Renee, I imagine that I can see in your face that you are torn on this one. You've spoken at length about the dangers of social media for kids, but you're also largely pro-freedom, like many on the right.
I am.
How do you square the circle?
So I can't square that circle, unfortunately, but this is where I come from. Labour didn't want this bill. They don't want to ban social media because they are in the pocket of big tech. There was a private member's bill by a Labour member about 6 months ago to ban smartphones in schools, which is where they should start, and Labour whipped it to vote it down because, and they even quoted the technology side of things, that we have, you know, we have obligations to these people who are important in our economy. So they are putting our economy and business ahead of our children. Something has to be done. Social media, Trey and I talk about this a lot, social media, phones, screens, from babies to teenagers, is destroying our kids' brains. I see it in my work every day. Teachers are seeing it. For me, the better way to go would be to ban smartphones in schools. That would be the start.
I'm fine with that.
Would be off. But they won't do that. So we have to do something. So I broadly support this bill, but I do have a problem in that I do think you are right. And so in terms of my freedom, it's a problem, but I can't put adults ahead of damaging children's brains.
I totally understand, and I was talking about this online the other day, and I am very torn on this too, because I know we've got to protect our children. I just think that this is part of an ongoing plan, and they always wave something in front of you. Protect kids. They did it with the online censorship bill, the online safety bill.
Which I've also opposed.
Exactly, and unfortunately what happens is it doesn't really stop kids from accessing these things, because they always are smarter than adults, and actually what it does is impose a level of censorship and authoritarianism on us.
I think that is a very good point, that kids find a way to get around these things. Kai, is this good politics from Labor?
I'm not sure about the politics of it. I mean, personally, I don't have a problem with doing things through the back door, but actually, Alex, that's not what's happening here, is it? Because you know that the technology exists and is used all the time to verify age by third parties in a decentralised way. It's not going to be held by the government. So this isn't really digital ID.
Can you guarantee that, Kai?
No, I can't.
But
let me tell
it's a straw man argument.
But do you read it? Well, it's not.
As you say, of course it is.
Because it's not. Because social media companies are going to choose their own vendors, aren't they? Like they already.
Keir Starmer's going to spend billions of pounds on digital ID that nobody wants, and they're never going to use it. Wow, this is nonsense. Again, it's the same. Don't look over here, because what we're building will never be used. It won't be compulsory. I can guarantee you, this will be compulsory. This is how they will do it in China, and they're following the Chinese playbook.
Don't guarantee things you don't know.
You are. You just were. What are you talking about?
I'm saying the technology exists. And it's unlikely.
Alex is right. Stop for a second. Stop for a second. I'm the dictator of this show, at least for this evening.
You are indeed.
There are legitimate concerns that the government will make this just so hard in your life that you will have to pick it up. Again, that is why people need to remain vigilant in this ongoing fight against digital ID. Renee, what do you have for us after the break?
So I'm going to talk again about how Labour continue to completely give out excuses and avoid implementing the Supreme Court ruling that says only women can be women.
You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, ladies and gentlemen. More details are emerging from this shocking shooting in Minnesota involving ICE agents and a 51-year-old man who has been pronounced dead. We are now learning that the 51-year-old man was apparently armed. This is news that is being reported by GBNews. He was allegedly armed with a gun and 2 magazines on him at the time. The Department of Homeland Security has released this information, so they're obviously trying to get ahead of the news cycle. They're aware of how potentially volcanic this news could be when it comes to social cohesion in this part of Minnesota. We will continue to provide more information as it comes to light. A 51-year-old man has been pronounced dead after an altercation with ICE agents. He was armed with a gun and 2 magazines as he approached those ICE agents. We will find out more details as they occur in what is, I am sad to say, a powder keg situation in the United States at the moment. Renee, over to you.
Difficult to follow that, Will, but I will indeed. So how many court rulings will it take to make this pathetic, woman-hating Labour government stand up and actually do what the Supreme Court said it should do and protect women? For 9 excruciating months, Bridget Phillipson has dodged, delayed, made excuses to ignore this landmark ruling on basic biology to appease a tiny, loud, violent group of men who demand access to women's private spaces. Now we have 2 fresh rulings hammering home what everybody apart from Labour seem to know, that only women can be women, and it's fine, not a crime, to say that. Last week, a judge ruled that the NHS Darlington nurses had had their human rights and dignity breached by the NHS for forcing them to undress in front of a man. Who knew? This week, disciplinary action against nurse Jennifer Melee, who insisted on calling a male paedophile he, was actually thrown out. And let's not forget the Orwellian NHS structures that tell women who complain that they just need re-education. Welcome to 1984, everybody. Enough is enough. This government must stop prioritising the delusions of men over the safety, dignity and human rights of women. Only women are women. When are Labour going to grow a spine?
Yes, Kai, why is it that despite now the Cass review, despite a very conclusive Supreme Court decision, the institutions of this country seem intent on clinging to this trans dogma?
Well, I know that it's very convenient to say that the Supreme Court ruling provided entire clarity, entirely black and white, but that is obviously not the case, as you know, right? The HRC submitted the final guidance in September, right? And Bridget Phillipson has been delaying it, asking for clarification on certain matters, right? Now, the claim is that there are lots of complexities and sort of misunderstandings that remain. I understand for many people that is difficult to understand. That is what could be so difficult. But, you know, there are circumstances where, you know, the impact of that guidance will have huge impacts on workplaces, on any public-facing services.
What, you mean they have to go back to 10 years ago?
And the Supreme Court held, for the purposes of one single piece of legislation, yes, the Equality Act, that sex is defined biologically, but there's still plenty of other ways where the Gender Recognition Act still applies, where trans women with a gender recognition certificate are women in civil partnerships and marriages,
The Gender Recognition
for
Act needs to be scrapped.
Trey, is this as complicated as Kai's making out?
Well, I'm going to answer it in two ways. No, if it's sex-based rights, let's actually do it right. But I think the pushback actually comes, forgive me when I say this though, Dr. Renee, is I think it's when you language it like that. There are people genuinely who identify as trans, and I think that's what these institutions are worried about.
They still don't have the right to watch me or my daughter undress.
True, but you still refer to them as men as opposed to trans women.
They're men.
We can have the level of compassion for them and at the same time adhere to this ruling. I think that's what those institutions are pushing back against a little bit.
Trans women are men by definition. That's why you need the word trans.
This is unfortunately a debate we will come back to. Alex, you've got a very busy show coming up at 9. What have you got for us?
Yes, Fabian Society, they had their national conference today. Let's dig into that. I tell you, that's a big show coming up at 9. Andy Burnham, all-out war in Labour. Layla Cunningham's coming to sit down with me to talk about the left-wing attack on her this week. Is there double standards when it comes to right-wing and left-wing politicians? Was Shakespeare a black Jewish woman? And I've got a Chagos delegation who are meeting Trump next week, so that's going to be a great one. And we'll see you after the weather.
Very exciting.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Often cloudy with spells of rain over the coming days, with some localised flooding possible, particularly where we have Met Office weather warnings issued. And there is some more wet and windy weather to come as we head into next week. And it's all down to areas of low pressure, one by one, swinging in from the North Atlantic. And even this area of low pressure here this evening will still continue to bring spells of rain across parts of Wales and then later on into Northern Ireland. Still could create some difficult driving conditions and some localised flooding. We'll see a brief drier spell across parts of the southwest before another band of heavy showers starts to move through, and for many areas of the country it is going to be wet and quite cloudy, and possibly even some snow across high ground in Scotland. This leads us into Sunday, and once again it is going to be very unsettled. Across Scotland there will be some spells of rain, this turning to hill snow, perhaps a little dry across the very far north of Scotland, away from any showers in the Northern Isles. Northern Ireland will see some spells of rain, this could be heavy at times, similar across northern parts of England. And then we've got this very heavy band of showers slowly skirting its way eastwards in from the southwest. So Sunday, yes, there will be more clouds, some spells of rain, and quite blustery at times, particularly around western coast, though winds generally easing through the course of the day. But under cloud, under any spells of rain, it is going to be feeling that much chillier, particularly around any eastern coasts. Quite a brisk easterly breeze coming in here, adding on to the chill of things. But otherwise, temperatures themselves around about average for the time of year, highs reaching around 8 degrees Celsius in the south. Into Monday, a drier start for some. Plenty of showers, though, feeding into northeastern coast, still falling as snow across parts of Scotland. Then another band of very wet and windy weather starting to push in from the west. This, too, later on could bring us some hill snow across Scotland and northern parts of England. It's going to remain unsettled into next week. Another area of low pressure hitting us on Tuesday and feeling very cold.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can become our biggest cash prize winner to date, as there's a simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Go on that dream holiday, buy that brand new car, or just relax in the knowledge that the rest of the year could be on us. But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the biggest show on Saturday night, UK TV. It's the Saturday 5, live from the GB News studios in London, England. I'm Will Kingston. I'm joined by Dr. Renee Hunderkamp, Alex Armstrong, Trey Lowe and Kai Wilshaw. Tonight on the show, keep getting your questions in for Ask the Five.
Our scrap is coming up. Is Britain broken?
And a veteran who nearly died in Afghanistan slams Trump over disrespectful comments on troops.
And the film Sinners smashes it with 16 Oscar nominations.
And I don't have anything. What do I have?
Well, there's nothing new there, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing from Guy. It's 7 p.m. and this is the Saturday 5. To be fair, Kai has been stitched up there, but it made me particularly happy. Ladies and gentlemen, we of course want to know your views throughout the show. Keep sending them in to gbnews.com/yoursay. We're going to keep you abreast of the updates coming out of Minnesota. Shocking footage following the death of a 37-year-old man after an altercation with ICE agents. That is a correction after I misspoke before the break and said it was 51 years old. 37-year-old man coming out and has been fatally shot by ICE agents. We will be keeping you up to date with that as it occurs. Before we get back to that story, however, ladies and gentlemen, it's your Saturday night news with Sophia Wensler.
Well, thank you and good evening. It's just gone 7 o'clock. These are your headlines. Andy Burnham has confirmed he wants to run for Parliament following days of speculation after Andrew Gwynn stood down as an MP on health grounds. There are fears among the Prime Minister's supporters that Mr Burnham could mount a future challenge to his leadership. Burnham, who's currently Mayor of Greater Manchester, has insisted that he wants to back the Labour government, not undermine it. As a directly elected mayor, Mr Burnham has to get approval from Labour's ruling National Executive Committee before he can enter the race to be the party's candidate. That decision is expected to be with us tomorrow. US President Donald Trump has paid tribute to the great and very brave soldiers of the United Kingdom after previously claiming NATO allies stayed away from the front lines during the war in Afghanistan. It comes after the Prime Minister raised Mr Trump's comments directly with the US President in a conversation today. Sir Keir Starmer had called the remarks insulting and frankly appalling, while Prince Harry also defended the bravery of UK troops. On Truth Social, the US President said Britons were among the greatest of all warriors, as he acknowledged the 457 who died and many who were badly injured. The man shot dead by ICE agents in Minneapolis is believed to be a 37-year-old white man who was a Minneapolis resident and a US citizen. A video has been circulating on X appearing to show the shooting. In the footage, a number of masked federal agents can be seen surrounding a man. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz called for an immediate end to the Trump administration's immigration enforcement operations in the state. Meanwhile, the Department of Homeland Security has said the man who was shot had wanted to, quote, massacre law enforcement. The reported shooting comes just over 2 weeks since Renee Nicole Good was shot dead by an ICE agent in Minneapolis. In other news now, Ukraine's capital has come under what the mayor has described as a massive attack, cutting power to 1.2 million buildings nationwide. Explosions were heard in Kyiv and Kharkiv, with authorities reporting at least one person has been killed and injured, and 15 others also injured. This latest attack comes after the first direct talks between Ukraine and Russia on the US plan to end the war. The talks in Abu Dhabi were called productive, but all that has emerged so far is further talks. And a German football executive has urged Europe to boycott the 2026 FIFA World Cup after Donald Trump's rhetoric over Greenland and broader foreign policy. Urke Göttlich, a vice president of the German Football Association, said in an interview with German media that the time had come to seriously consider and discuss a boycott. He compared the current moment to the Cold War era Olympic boycotts of the 1980s. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to the Saturday 5.
Thank you, Sophia. Well, Renee's comments on the ongoing trans lunacy have certainly struck a chord with viewers. Peter has said, Renee, you can be certain if Farage gets into number 10, all this ridiculous nonsense will stop. I couldn't care less how people live their lives, but I do care about women, and that's common morals. Do you think that reform is the answer? Do you think that this stuff will go away with reform?
I think it's the best answer we have, and I think we're finding ourselves saying that about a lot of politics, aren't we? I think of all of the political parties that there are at the moment, it's the only one that's going to tackle this.
Michael has said, I'm a 22-stone bloke, but I identify as a 12-stone bloke. Does that make me trans slender?
Very good.
Thank you, Michael. We will keep getting your comments through as much as we can, so please send them through to gbnews.com/your say. Of course, there is a powder keg situation in Minneapolis, Minnesota in the United States. A 37-year-old man has been fatally shot in an altercation with ICE. We are aware that that man was armed as he moved towards ICE agents. These are the latest pictures that we have coming out, and you can see they're very bracing scenes. I imagine that smoke that you're seeing is for crowd control as agents move in on activists to try and, well, control the situation. This is potentially a really, really dangerous situation. So we are monitoring that throughout the evening, and we can only hope that people stay safe as tensions remain very high in Minneapolis. Well, we are going to move on. We've got our main event, ladies and gentlemen, coming your way. Yes, well, it is time for our main event, the Saturday Scrap. Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch has insisted this week that Britain is not broken. It follows the defection of Robert Jenrick and Andrew Rosendale, plus more dissatisfaction across the country over the last 7 days. So, we ask the question, is Britain broken? And if it is, who broke her? Seconds out, it's round one.
OK. Right, so I'm going to start because I want to.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Absolutely. Look, I think firstly, just before I go on to the many reasons why Britain is definitely broken, and I stopped at 10, I was writing them down, I stopped at 10, is that Kemi's quite interesting because she says that Britain isn't broken, and then in her next speech she says that the Conservatives are going to fix Britain. So what is she going to fix if it isn't broken? Well, I'll tell you what she needs to fix. Firstly, and really importantly, are things like crime. Crime being caused by social breakdown, social disorder and mass migration. Crime that feeds into everything we do, where people are now not even reporting when their phones are stolen, their bikes are stolen. You know, we might hear from the powers that be that homicides are down in London, for example, but sexual assaults are up. A woman gets raped every hour in London. Crime is at its worst at the moment. Culture. The erosion of British culture. We are now seeing our culture being diluted to a point where the most offensive thing that I could do today is put the Union flag up outside my house. That would offend somebody. The loss of agency. People just feel now that they have no agency, they have no control over their lives, that the nanny state has grown so much with these ridiculous rules that are just sucking up our freedoms and the fun out of life. Political distrust. Nobody trusts politicians anymore. And when you don't trust your politicians to run your country, how can you trust them to fix it? The crumbling infrastructure that we all have to live with, stations that don't work. We heard tonight that a bridge with train lines over it down in the southwest has collapsed into a river. We have schools that are made of wrack that have to be closed and kids have to be taught in crumbling shacks. There's a hospital in Scotland that's brand new and was opened and the water is poisonous and patients are dying. The NHS has record waiting lists. We have low productivity. Housing affordability is at its worst. People can't afford houses anymore in relation to their income. Wages have stagnated and the cost of living is seeing half of Brits feel that it will never end. Britain is broken.
Do you know what? Britain is broken, but not in the way that Dr. N.A. just said. What is broken is a complete, fundamental lack of leadership. Let me tell you how Britain isn't broken. We are still, what, the 6th largest economy in the world. We still have a seat on the Security Council. We have world-class universities. We have actual world-class culture. You know, a lot of the music success has been led by some of the incredible women, the pop stars, that have gone out and sold our culture and our music worldwide. We have so much in this country to celebrate. Decent, good, hard-working people. And that will never, ever be broken, the British spirit. But I'll tell you what is broken. You got the lefties like Kai with their aggressive policies that everyone gets absolutely upset by. So they go running to the right. And what does the right give them? More rhetoric, more dogma, more nonsense that they know they're not going to be able to enact, or they won't even have the will to do it anyway, because all they really care about is power. But meanwhile, you have millions of ordinary British citizens like myself, people in the centre, ordinary, sensible people who wish the best for the country, who knows that it's a country that can flourish, that can do well with the right kind of leadership. The kind of people that talk us up, not talk us down. That's what's broken. It's a fundamental lack of leadership.
Well,
I think what Trey just said was that Britain is broken.
Well,
could have done it without slagging us all off.
Yeah, that's Trey with his Best Ed Davey impersonation. But to be fair, all of the wonderful things about this country that endure, that Trey mentioned, are still true. That is the case.
Exactly.
But Alex, there is, I don't think anyone can argue, this prevailing sentiment, this feeling across the country that things are in decline. What do you put that down to if as according to Trey, we still do have these wonderful parts of the culture and the country?
97% of our audience, by the way, believe Britain is broken, and they'd be right to believe that. Look at NHS waiting lists, look at housing, look at inflation, look at the cost of living. And unfortunately, when people sit here on desks like this and tell the nation, oh, it's OK, don't talk down Britain, talk it up. You're living in a fantasy land and you're doing it and it's gaslighting the country. There is serious fundamental issues with Britain and the way it works. Politicians can't get things done in Parliament. Consecutive prime ministers of red and blue colours say the same thing. There is a fundamental problem in Britain, and that is a broken part of our country, and failing to acknowledge something is broken is meaning that you don't have the energy to say we've got to fix things, and that is the problem by saying Britain's great, don't worry about it, guys, just bury your heads back in the sand and join the Liberal Democrats.
Not quite what I was saying.
That's
not
fine.
saying you were saying, but you know, it's the general consensus I believe of people saying. Kemi Badenoch said Britain's not broken by and I think she's fundamentally wrong.
Well, that's an interesting question. What do you think of the politics of Kemi going out and saying that Britain is not broken? Of course, she's in between a rock and a hard place, because if she was to say that Britain is broken, she would have to concede that the Conservatives played a very large role in breaking it. Yeah. But at the same time, you do get the sense that she is gaslighting the British public. What do you make of that, Kai?
I'm not surprised at all. And I think what Kemi and Keir Starmer have in common is that they think what leadership looks like is to try and give that hope. But I agree with Alex. And, you know, we talked about this 2 weeks ago when we were talking about whether I should talk about this and argue this, and I was going to argue, yes, Britain is broken. There's not much to like about Robert Jenrick, but reading his speech, his defection speech, listing all the things that are wrong with Britain, it's hard to disagree. Yep. And the reason why Keir Starmer, and I support the Labour government, right, and I support the Labour Party being in charge, but this phrase, a government of national renewal, he says renewal. Renewal means renewing your subscriptions. He wants to say that because he doesn't want to say we need to fix things. He doesn't want to say Britain is broken. He doesn't want to admit it to himself because he doesn't believe it. And that's the problem, I agree.
He doesn't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that vision.
Who does?
Well, I think
who has the answer?
This is the distinction. I think a lot of people actually know the basic things that need to be done to fix this country, but there is an administrative state and there's a massive machine that has now made it so difficult for change to be effected that someone like Keir Starmer has now gone, well, it's all a bit too hard. I struggle with The Economist these days, but I actually think there was a decent article in there during the week which was saying words to the effect of Britain is a poor country now that is still thinking of itself as a rich country, and it is still trying to act like a rich country with an incredibly big pension scheme, trying to act like a big country on the world stage. And unfortunately, all of the money that goes with that, the country can no longer afford, Alex.
Yeah, no, we absolutely can't. And what really matters to people is the biggest problem we've had is this lie about GDP that's been told time and time again. You import more people, therefore you tax more people, therefore your GDP numbers go up. This is the same experiment globalists have been doing for a long time. Meanwhile, what happens when those cheap migrants come in from parts of the world that I don't think are culturally favourable to us? What happens is they undercut our wages, therefore they suppress your wages. Not only are there a lack of jobs, but there's also then a lack of wage growth because, of course, that cheap labour is coming in and cutting your salary in half because they'll do it for cheaper. Your services get worse because they're less skilled than we are, and this is part of the reason why GDP per capita is completely flatlined since 2008.
Yeah, and I think it is the response of every sensible journalist in this country when a politician starts to talk about GDP figures to come out with, well, what about GDP per capita? Because that is why you are still feeling poorer relative to perhaps how you felt 15 years ago, despite the GDP numbers going up. Still to come tonight.
So I'm Somali. I'm proud to be Somali. To me, being Somali isn't just eating bananas with rice.
Yeah, it's going to be an uncomfortable watch, that one, but you're going to have to watch it, ladies and gentlemen. But next, a veteran, I should say, who nearly died in Afghanistan, slams Trump over disrespectful comments on troops. That's all.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, the biggest show on Saturday night, UK TV. Of course, continue to get in contact with us at gbnews.com/your say. And please also add Ask the Five in front of your comment if you want to ask us any questions in the Saturday 5 Extra coming up in the next hour. Of course, we're incredibly grateful for your messages so far. We will continue to read them throughout the show. Now, it's been a testing week for the special relationship between the United States and Britain. It kicked off when President Trump earlier in the week claimed NATO troops in Afghanistan had stayed a little back, a little off the front lines. But now, President Trump has taken to Truth Social to share this. The great and very brave soldiers of the United Kingdom will always be with the United States of America. In Afghanistan, 457 died, many were badly injured, and they were among the greatest of all warriors. It's a bond too strong to ever be broken. The UK military, with tremendous heart and soul, is second to none. We love you all and always will. President Donald J. Trump. To discuss this, I am pleased to welcome former Conservative MP and British Army officer James Sunderland. James, thank you so much for joining us this evening. What were your immediate thoughts and feelings when you heard Donald Trump's comments earlier in the week?
My feelings and thoughts were exactly the same as any other proud British veteran who had served in Afghanistan, Iraq or anywhere else. You know, I think the comments were offensive, insensitive and crass, and also wrong. And if you look at the figures, 2,461 US troops died in Afghanistan, 457 British troops died in Afghanistan. But surveys have shown that if you were a British soldier in Afghanistan, then there's a 4.7% fatality rate or likelihood of, whereas that was 2.3% for the Americans. So the comments were wrong, and thankfully facts and balanced argument has borne that out.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that 4.5% number, did you say, James? Yes. That's 4.7%. 4.7%. That's shockingly high. Was that as a result of the particular missions that the United Kingdom troops had to go on? Can you tell me about what precisely the UK's role was in Afghanistan and why they were in that level of danger?
Well, once the initial deployment had taken place, of course, Special Forces went in first to clear the Tora Bora Mountains. A lot of that is subject to classified material. But certainly the British forces went into Afghanistan as part of a NATO force. There were US, Canadians, Danes, Estonians from many, many countries all supporting that war effort, effectively as a peace enforcement. But there were clearly some deliberate offensive actions undertaken. There were defensive actions undertaken. Logistic operations. It was the full range of military support to support a very complex NATO operation in Afghanistan against a determined and very credible enemy, which is why we lost so many soldiers and which is why we had so seriously wounded. So to be glib about the British or NATO contribution in Afghanistan, I'm afraid is completely wrong. And Trump, thankfully, has been caught out, hence his tweet earlier today.
Those British heroes you can see on the screen there. We hear about that fatality number, which is terrible, and they are, of course, heroes. But there is also the troops that return home and all of the problems that are associated with returning from a war zone, whether it be mental health issues, whether it be difficulty getting back into day-to-day life. I think this is a story that often goes unsaid. Tell me about how effectively you think the UK, I guess across successive governments, has managed to reintegrate soldiers back into society and how they've dealt with those unique challenges that they face coming back to the United Kingdom from war.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, there's been huge efforts undertaken over successive decades. I mean, when I came out of Sandhurst in the early 90s, I commanded a pioneer troop that had done war graves registration in Iraq during the first Gulf War. I mean, that troop was rotten. We had soldiers, sadly, suffering acute PTSD, no decompression after redeployment, almost no support at all. That is now radically different. And, I'm very pleased to say that efforts to reintegrate soldiers, bring them back to normality, back to society, back to their families, are really impressive for me. And I studied 2 tours in Iraq. On both occasions, we came back via Cyprus for decompression package. But it was the whole list of psychology support. It was the psychiatrists that were working to support us. It was the medical support. It is revolutionary now in comparison to what it was. And, I'm very proud to be associated with it.
James, if you don't mind me asking, I've got veterans in my immediate family who served in Afghanistan as well, and they're deeply offended by Donald Trump's comments. I'd like to ask you, from your perspective, future operations with the United States of America, how might this change the perspective and the camaraderie between British and American troops? Do you think it will damage that?
No, I think it's the opposite. I think, if anything, it will strengthen those relationships. I mean, don't forget, American soldiers and officers who served alongside British soldiers and officers have been very complimentary over the last 24 hours. In fact, there's been a sense of abhorrence through former colleagues that I served with, that I'm in contact with now, about Trump's remarks. And, those who know the score, those who were there, those who fought, will tell you that those relationships are very, very strong. The special relationship does work. It's being strained at the moment. We've got a long history of shared endeavour. First World War, Second World War, since the 2 major wars, of course, with Afghanistan, Iraq, Bosnia, the list goes on. So it is very normal for British soldiers to serve alongside US soldiers and to be getting on very well doing jobs. Special Forces as well, we look at what they do, very closely integrated. I mean, I can recall when I was working in a particular headquarters, US air support protecting UK ground troops. That relationship is very strong and likely, in my view, to be stronger. We've got a rogue president at the moment, firing from the hip, making ill-informed comments. He's been found out, but thankfully that sense of shared endeavour will continue into the future.
Thank you for your service as well.
James, that's a really interesting comment. I'm glad you just said that about Trump and shooting from the hip. It always seems to me that America have their veterans much more higher up in their minds than we do ours. They seem to respect their veterans publicly anyway. I don't know what goes on behind the scene, much more than we do ours. And yet an American president made these comments this week. Do you think he just didn't think about it when he was just so determined to make his point about Greenland and Europe's role in everything? Or do you think he just doesn't put veterans as high as the rest of Americans do in his mind?
I think any politician has veterans at the forefront of their mind. I don't think Trump is necessarily thinking any differently. But what I would say to you is that it is important that we value our veterans. Veterans in the US are greatly valued. Whenever I've been there on exercise or working with the American troops, I've had lunch and supper paid for. It's quite extraordinary. Generosity is extraordinary there. Johnny Mercer always used to say that he wanted the UK to be the best place to be a veteran. I think we have got work to do to catch up with the Americans and how they perceive their veteran support. And going back to that famous film with Tom Cruise, 4th of July, it's all about making sure that we we catch up. But what I would say is I think these comments were rogue. They were pretty graceless. He's apologised, I suspect, today. He's been proven to be completely wrong and out of order. And what we've got is an American president who fires from the hip. He says what he thinks. He can at times be not very graceful. And I think ultimately what we need to be as world leaders is as well informed as we can be, so that we are bringing people together, we are uniting NATO, we are thinking about what's important and not dividing our friends and allies.
James, I spoke to a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, who fought in both of those wars, and he mentioned that his son has since joined his regiment, but he wondered out loud whether young people would want to join the army going forward. Do you think Donald Trump would have hurt that prospect of young people believing it's a good thing to actually go and fight for their countries?
I did 26 years as a regular officer. I learned a huge amount about myself. I met some fantastic people. I conducted myself hopefully well amongst my colleagues on operations, and I had a great time. And I wouldn't change that for the world. And I can recommend heartily a career in the armed forces. We talk a lot about the army, but the Navy and the RAF, fantastic institutions, very proud services in the UK. Veterans wear the medals with pride. Why? Because they've earned them. There is, of course, a risk that we may have to call upon ourselves to pay the ultimate price, but thankfully, statistically, that's quite low. I had a great time, and I don't think that these comments will damage, that recruitment effort at all. And I think that ultimately, what we've got is a generation of young people today joining the armed forces. They impress me every time I see them. We do our young people down all of the time. They're brilliant. They're absolutely superb. And we've got ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And I'm very proud of what I did personally. I'm very proud of our armed services now. And I'm very proud that we've got young people wanting to pursue that most noble of careers.
Well, they're lovely sentiments to lead the audience with, James. Thank you very much for your time tonight. And, of course, thank you for your service to the United Kingdom.
Thank you very much.
Still to come tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Can't take this complicity. People rolling over. I should have brought a bunch of knee pads for all the world leaders.
Oh, yes, the globalist lizard is back. That's this week's Triggered Tantrums. But next, demoted David Lammy still is acting like a foreign secretary on world trips, critics say, clinging to that old role after a Labour reshuffle. You're with the Saturday 5, live on GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, are you heading away this weekend? Storm Ingrid is bringing some very unsettled weather to Portugal and Spain. It's pretty wet and windy elsewhere too. The Canary Islands, though, still seeing plenty of dry weather, not especially warm, however. Very wet weather into Spain and Portugal, and some unsettled weather, thunderstorms across parts of Italy as well as the Balkans. It does look drier, though, towards Greece for the weekend. That wet weather will push eastwards later, though. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. For the rest of the weekend, it's often going to be cloudy. We will still see some spells of rain and temperatures around average for this time of the year. Why has it been so wet recently? Well, it's all thanks to low pressure continuously coming in from the west, swirling around across the west and southwest of the country. So this means at times this evening we'll continue to see some spells of rain, particularly across southwest England, southern parts of Wales, and also some fairly persistent outbreaks of rain across Northern Ireland later. Briefly turning a little bit drier across parts of the southwest before another heavy band of rain starts to move through. Most areas will see some spells of rain overnight, and this likely falling as hill snow across parts of Scotland. Still fairly breezy as we head into Sunday morning, but winds generally easing off. So that means many areas starting off the day around the mid-single figures. So another wet start across parts of southwest England, eventually rain moving into southern Wales. Elsewhere, a mix of cloud and also some patchy rain. Similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, we will see some patchy rain at times, and this still likely falling as snow across the Scottish Highlands, perhaps a little bit drier towards the far north of Scotland, away from any showers across the Northern Isles. And for most on Sunday, it is going to be a fairly unsettled day, mostly cloudy with continuous spells of rain, perhaps starting to turn a little bit brighter across Northern Ireland later, mostly dry across East Anglia and southeast England, but even here still fairly cloudy. And temperatures are around average for this time of the year, but it's likely feeling quite chilly under the cloud in any spells of rain, and particularly chilly around the eastern breeze across any eastern coastal areas. Now into the evening, more cloud to come, some spells of rain, but through the early hours of Monday, most cloud clearing away, so it's likely a chillier start heading into the new working week with some sunshine, but that's before more wind and rain arriving later on Monday and possibly leading to some more Met Office warnings later in the week.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, ladies and gentlemen. Let's return to what are bracing images coming out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. These are live and they have come after a man has died after being shot by federal agents today. It is the second fatal shooting involving federal ICE agents this month after a surge in immigration enforcement in the northern US city. Of course, if you could just hear that, you can hear those are loud sounds. They are potentially crowd control weaponry that is being used by agents there to try and get activists under control. As I said, this is very much a fluid situation, and we will have more details for you as the picture becomes clearer. What we do know is that the 37-year-old man who was fatally shot by ICE agents was armed as he was approaching them, and he lost his life in that altercation. We can now see that the ICE agents are trying to quell what are no doubt very a very tense situation with activists in that part of the world. What you're seeing at the moment are latest shots coming from that part of the world, and we're now back live. As you can see, that this has not been the ICE agents and indeed the anti-crowd control forces haven't been able to stop what is at the moment a very tense situation. Kai, I'll go to you quickly on this. What do you make of the footage that we're seeing coming out of Minneapolis?
It's horrifying. But what you're framing, and I've not spoken about this yet, but you should know better than to frame this entirely as left-wing activists protesting violently, right, against something that is de rigueur, that happens all the time. You all talked about immigration enforcement under Obama, right? Understood. But you fail to recognise what most people do, any good faith understanding of this story. The Trump administration has used ICE in democratic states as a weapon to foment civil war. It used violence and intimidation. It shot Renee Good in the face. We saw that ourselves. They flooded those states. Can I just go on? Because, just a bit. Thousands of agents have flooded those states. Tear gas has been used, as you mentioned yourself. A 6-month-old was hospitalised as a result. Citizens are being stopped and detained. They're acting with impunity. They are thug gang. This is going to continue. I don't think it would happen here in the UK if immigration enforcement was happen, because this could not happen in the UK.
I would very simply say don't get in the way of federal agents in their attempt to do their jobs.
Will, you say he was armed. There's a right to bear arms in the United States, as we never stop hearing about. It is a different context to the UK. To call him armed based on the DHS, which tweets out ethno-nationalist propaganda. Come on, Will, you're better than this.
There's no right to bear them at police, though.
Yeah, as I said, this is a fluid situation, and at the moment all we can say is that the man was armed. We will no doubt find out more about this story as it progresses. Now, it's time for this. It is, of course, bunch of 5. The autocue queue says, Will, what have you got for us? I will answer my own question. I have got, and this is, I'm not quite sure the adjective for this story. A former prison officer has been jailed for having romantic relations with 2 inmates, Isabel Dale. She swore her undying love to prisoners Shahid Sharif and Connor Money while working at HMP Cordingley in Surrey. The judge has sentenced her to a very hefty 3.5-year jail sentence. A few thoughts on this one. One, I note without comment the amount of people I saw on social media who said that this made them proud to be British. I will add further that whilst we are not in any way condoning this behaviour, it does feel like an incredibly harsh sentence in comparison to some of the other crimes that we have covered on this show in recent times. And the third one is a question which I'll go to Renee. Surely, Renee, this is proof that we should not be employing women in male prisons.
Oh boy, I didn't think that's where you were going to come from on that. Look, I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? You know, when you take certain jobs, a teacher, a doctor, a prison officer, you don't have sex with your patients, your pupils or your inmates. She broke the law. She's been punished. I don't know.
I think the problem is, Renee, is that you're talking about very qualified people. Unfortunately, to be a prison officer, there's not as much qualification and standards that go into that. So you've been trained for a very long time But I actually do think that women shouldn't serve as prison officers in men's prisons. I just don't think that it helps the situation at all, and I don't think the temptation is good for men and women in those prisons. That's just my line.
You've both caught me on the hop because it's not something I've ever given.
No, it's fair enough. It's fair enough.
We would love to hear your thoughts. Get in touch with us on gbnews.com/your say. Renee, what have you got for us?
I really love this. Anyone who's watched the Squid Games, and nobody has, but lots of people have, which is you win by killing everybody around you. An Italian company called Blurgo, with 100 employees, have sent out an email to all of their employees to ask them when they make layoffs, who should they lay off? And firstly, it made me chuckle because I thought it was brutal but fun. But the other part of it is I wonder if we should approach politics like this. So when people want us to spend another £1 billion on drugs in the NHS, let's ask the public what they want to scrap.
Yeah, I love it.
Trey, what do you make of that?
But deprive drugs, life-saving drugs from people.
I think it's open to so much abuse. I mean, can you imagine that? It's all going to be about who can be the most popular person with the boss. Terrible. It won't be about productivity, will it? It is a funny story, but seriously speaking, you can't run a business like that.
Food for thought. Alex, what have you got for us?
Yeah, well, the Justice Secretary can't stop jet-setting. Since he's left the Foreign Office, he's travelled to these countries, goodness knows why, New York, the Vatican, Brussels, the UAE, Washington, D.C. and Ukraine. What on earth is the Justice Secretary doing? He's now, of course, alongside Keir Starmer, who's travelled 70% of the way to the moon, by the way. 300 miles a day on average. I think most of us would like to see him on the moon. But what is David Lammy doing? Why is he flying around the world, Kai?
I have not the faintest clue. I'll be honest with you, but it sounds like quite a grand man indeed.
Maybe he's looking for his cervix.
I think this is particularly...
It's damning. It's damning.
But it's irritating as well when there are so many problems in the judicial system at the moment that need urgent attention.
Exactly.
We've already covered one in this bunch of 5. But of course, you know, when people are talking about scrapping jury trials, when there is a backlog, you would have thought that he would be spending his time on those issues, not jet-setting off to New York.
To be fair, at least with the prison officer, it seems to be practical, the sentence she had. At least behind bars, she has something to hold on to.
I will move on very, very swiftly and without comment. Trey, what have you got for us?
Well, back from the moon and back from jetting around the world, back to the UK, and as far as I'm concerned, it's an attack on motorists. We're talking about the petrol and diesel drivers that are going to be dealt a blow as Labour hikes up charges in front of a major emissions push. I mean, I can say this as a father. I'm actually sick of this war on motorists. I mean, I've got a little one. I can't go on public transport. You know, I can't go on the underground. There's no lifts whatsoever. You go on a bus, it's so difficult when it's packed. And all I've got is my car. And I'm actually sick of being charged more and more and more to drive. And I know they want to get people in their electric vehicles, but we all know when everybody's driving electric vehicles, they're still going to put the rates up. I mean, what do you guys think about it? Attack on motorists? Do you think it's a good thing for the...
No. Half of vehicles are going to be in the lower band. 25% will have fractionally more, modest increases. And then let's look at the highest band. Which of these do you have, Trey? An Audi 7 or 8 class, a Jeep Wrangler, a Land Rover Defender? an Aston Martin, a Bentley. Come on.
But
not the end of the world.
The point is this is all in the pursuit of a symbolic end. This won't make any difference to the global climate, and yet you're still just choosing.
But what about air pollution?
More and more people.
What about air pollution?
Well,
okay, so
kills thousands of people all across the UK every year.
Excuse me. So these schemes to help air pollution haven't helped air pollution at all. In London now, Park Lane, which used to be 3 lanes and is now 1, is now sitting, idling traffic, pumping out more air pollution.
Yeah, I agree, but that's not what this measure is. This isn't an LTN.
Do you really think
this is about polluting cars being...
This is for the environment, or is it about raising revenue and attacking...
So can you kill people with air pollution as long as you pay more? Is that OK?
No, it's about incentives, as you well know.
I'll let you off the hook so you don't have to answer that one. What have you got for us?
I did. Former Health Secretary Alan Milburn is investigating the soaring percentage of 16 to 24-year-old NEETs. Many of you know, of course, that means not in employment, work or training, or... Oh, no, I've got that wrong. Anyway, he's called it a moral, fiscal and social crisis that so many of them are signed off work due to sickness, and essentially that 60,000 of them are claiming PIP for anxiety and depression, compared with under 20,000 pre-pandemic.
This is an incredibly important story. We'll cover it after the break, but still to come tonight...
Hey, I'm Alien. I'm 26. I'm single.
How long have you been single?
Basically all my life. I had situationships, but never really had a real relationship.
I'm shocked she's been single all her life. Triggered Tantrums are next. You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Prince William is the most popular member of the royal family, according to the latest tracker from YouGov. January 2026 ratings, followed very closely by his wife, the Princess of Wales. They've got favourability ratings of 74% and 77% respectively even. Princess Anne, number 3, the King, number 4. Now, Meghan and Andrew, where do you think they were?
Who's below which one? That's the question. I think Andrew's at the bottom.
Andrew is at the very bottom. It's his lowest ever favourability rating. Just 3% of the British public have a positive view of Prince Andrew.
3% have a positive... Still
3%.
But hang on, there is a principle in polling called the lizard man constant.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
this is that you will always find between 3 and 5% of any poll that says something ridiculous, like lizard men are running the world.
OK.
4%, I think, was the percentage of Obama voters in America who believed Obama was the Antichrist. I mean, it's the sort of nonsense noise that you get in a poll. It's usually 3-4%.
Well, you know,
talking of nonsense noise,
I mean, Andrew, you know, he's still a grandfather and he's still a father. Anyway, Meghan also had her worst favourability ratings ever, 19%. But the thing that struck me in this polling is that 64% of Brits think we should continue to have monarchy, but only half think it's value for when eventually he does become king. I suspect there's going to be a lot of cost-saving measures when it comes to how the royal family is funded. There's 500 staff, just over, which are funded by the sovereign grant, which is basically our money. You know, tens of millions a year that the sovereign grant costs us. So maybe he'll take a look at that, but I am assured that he'll continue the big staple traditions that give us the USP for Great Britain. The coronation, trooping the colour, that's all staying.
That's the thing. I think the Spanish royal family is less popular than ours because they all wear suits and ties all the time. They don't have the big coronation. They don't have the pomp and circumstance. What makes our royal family so special and unique is all of the silly hats and the gold and the jewels.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, ladies and gentlemen. An interesting your say has come through. It's from Peter. Peter said, Will, as an ex-prison officer, women were brilliant working in the toughest prison in the country. We were all highly trained in Aikido back then. As for relationships, big no-no, it compromises prison security. That's a really interesting insight, Peter, and I think presents a very strong argument for why highly trained, competent women should have a place in both men's and women's prisons. Let's return now to the United States. These are live pictures from Minneapolis, Minnesota, after a 37-year-old man has died after being shot by federal ICE agents today. It is the second fatal shooting this month during a surge in immigration enforcement in the northern US city. As you can see there, crowds have not dispersed, but it does appear, at least from this footage, as if it is not quite as tense as perhaps it was an hour or so ago, when we did see smoke emerging from ICE agents as they moved in on activists. These are now latest pictures coming through from earlier, where you can see what appears to be smoke, and one hypothesis would be an attempt to disperse crowds using that particular device. We're going to continue bringing you up to date with this story in Minneapolis. It does continue to be a powder keg in that city. The latest footage we can see, there are barricades which appear to be going up. This is live footage. These are federal agents, or appear to be federal agents, putting up barricades, I imagine as an attempt to try and stop protesters from entering a particular area. So this is by no means, this story is no means over. Let's move on. It's now time for Triggered Tantrums. It's your ticket to this week's Ringmasters of Rage, Clowns of Collapse and Acrobats of Absurdity. Basically, they're all just nutters. I'm going to kick us off, and this is... oh, dearie me, this is an incredibly difficult watch, but please stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. It is worth it. Let's have a look at this American politician.
So I'm Somali. I'm proud to be Somali. To me, being Somali isn't just eating bananas with rice. It's a lot. It's like it's an interesting thing. It's very hard to describe what it means to be Somali and what it means to be American, but it's like a cultural fusion. It's kind of like the bananas and rice.
It's not like bananas and rice. It is like bananas and rice. Good job.
Dearie me. I believe that's, sorry, I misspoke. That's an everyday...
Do you think she went to the Quality Learning Centre?
The Leering Centre. Leering Centre. Yeah, dearie me, there are some troubles in Minnesota at the moment. Renee, what have you got for us?
OK, there are some really, really strange people in the world, and they're teaching me things that I didn't even know, so let's just watch her.
Hey, I'm Alien. I'm 26. I'm single.
How long have you been single?
Basically all my life. I had situationships, but never really had a real relationship.
Okay, and what about the trees? Weren't you in love with a tree?
Yeah, I'm still in love with him. I still go see
him.
Yeah.
Well, I guess trees do have a sex, right? Do you check? How do you check the sex of a tree?
I believe that majority of trees that are just planted around are male.
I mean,
it's amazing.
These people are in the world.
Yeah.
Do they have jobs?
Well, they certainly vote.
They're physically here, but mentally, I don't think they're on this planet. I don't think she thinks she's on this planet, actually. She said she's an alien. She might even be out of space.
Kai, surely you think we're being bigoted towards the alien-aligned community?
Well, exactly. I think you should check your privilege. It is a privilege.
Someone call the men in black
on this earth.
But I wonder how she thinks other trees come into the world if all trees are male.
Renee, I can't speak to that. It's a bit like the one... We had a tantrum once. The real vintage one was the person who identified as a hawk, and I did find that amusing.
Yes.
That was a good one.
This is all doing my head in a bit, so I'm going to go to you, please. Trey, what have you got for us with your trigger tantrum?
Oh, God. So I've got the California Governor, Gavin Newsom. Let's take a look.
Can't take this complicity. People rolling over. I should have brought a bunch of knee pads for all the world leaders. I mean, handing out crowns and this is pathetic. Nobel Prizes that are being given away. I mean, it's just pathetic. And I hope people understand how pathetic they look on the world stage. I mean, at least from an American perspective, it's embarrassing. So what should...
Do you know what? I think he generally does have a point. I know not everyone thinks he runs his state that great, but I think he's right. He's talking basically about European leaders growing, having a backbone and pushing back against the current American administration. I don't see anything wrong with that. But I like the fact the way he said it, he just went for it.
He could be the president one day.
I think he will be.
He's probably at the moment the lead contender for the Democratic nomination for the 2028 presidential election, which would terrify anyone who has been to California in recent years. Of course, he is the governor of California. The thing which is interesting about his commentary, Alex, is that he obviously hates Donald Trump like they all do with a burning passion, but his strategy on social media and in comments like that is to effectively ape him with the same type of exaggerated, hyperbolic rhetoric.
Yeah, it's exactly. The social media strategy is exactly the same as Donald Trump's. In fact, they've copied it. It's a carbon copy. They're just trying to put a Democrat spin on it. And as someone who's lived in Los Angeles, a Democrat state run by Gavin Newsom, let me tell you, it was an utter disaster. If that is replicated on a national scale in America, well, the country just won't exist anymore.
Well, I think it's
really
even worse. I was there 18 months ago and it was shockingly bad.
Yeah.
Drug users everywhere, people leaving. It's awful.
Well, once another place that is awful is in Minneapolis. We've got more live pictures coming through now after that fatal shooting of a 37-year-old activist by ICE agents. Wow, and in shades of kind of, Les Miserables, we have activists, what would appear to be on the barricades. I don't know whether they are singing any sort of musical tune. We will have to have that confirmed. But this is certainly oh, dearie me. This is a very, very live situation. There are shots. They could just be attempts to disperse the crowd or to make a racket. But the point is, this is not a safe situation at the moment. We will continue to... I'll compose myself after that, and we will continue to bring you this footage as it emerges after the break with the Saturday 5 Extra. Don't go anywhere on the People's Channel, GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Often cloudy with spells of rain over the coming days, with some localised flooding possible, particularly where we have Met Office weather warnings issued. And there is some more wet and windy weather to come as we head into next week. And it's all down to areas of low pressure, one by one, swinging in from the North Atlantic. And even this area of low pressure here this evening will still continue to bring spells of rain across parts of Wales and then later on into Northern Ireland. Still could create some difficult driving conditions and some localised flooding. We'll see a brief dry spell across parts of the southwest before another band of heavy showers starts to move through, and for many areas of the country it is going to be wet and quite cloudy, and possibly even some snow across high ground in Scotland. This leads us into Sunday, and once again it is going to be very unsettled. Across Scotland there will be some spells of rain, this turning to hill snow, perhaps a little dry across the very far north of Scotland, away from any showers in the Northern Isles. Northern Ireland will see some spells of rain, this could be heavy at times, similar across northern parts of England. And then we've got this very heavy band of showers slowly skirting its way eastwards in from the southwest. So Sunday, yes, there will be more clouds, some spells of rain, and quite blustery at times, particularly around western coast, though winds generally easing through the course of the day. But under cloud, under any spells of rain, it is going to be feeling that much chillier, particularly around any eastern coasts. Quite a brisk easterly breeze coming in here, adding on to the chill of things. But otherwise, temperatures themselves around about average for the time of year, highs reaching around 8 degrees Celsius in the south. Into Monday, a drier start for some. Plenty of showers, though, feeding into northeastern coast, still falling as snow across parts of Scotland. Then another band of very wet and windy weather starting to push in from the west. This, too, later on could bring us some hill snow across Scotland and northern parts of England. It's going to remain unsettled into next week. Another area of low pressure hitting us on Tuesday and feeling very cold.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can become our biggest cash prize winner to date, as there's a simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Go on that dream holiday, buy that brand new car, or just relax in the knowledge that the rest of the year could be on us. But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening and welcome to the biggest show on Saturday night UK TV, but in extra form. It's the Saturday 5 Extra Edition live on GB News from our studios in London, England. I'm Will Kingston. I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Renee Honderkamp, who has sprinted back from the bathroom in an incredibly exciting series of events. The debuting AJ Pritchard, Trey Lowe and Kai Wilshaw. On the Extra Edition tonight, keep getting your questions in. We'll be answering them in Ask the Five. We have a lot coming your way this evening, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a wonderful interview about what I think is a very curious Academy Awards nomination, 16 going to Sinners. I don't think it's necessarily for the quality of the art. I think there may be a bit of politics going on there. We've also got our high fives, our favourite moments from the past week. And of course, we do want to hear your messages. Please send them through to gbnews.com/yoursay. They've been coming through thick and fast so far. Remember, when you put your questions in for Ask the Five, put in Ask the Five above that particular question in your say. Before we start tearing each other apart, once again, it's your Saturday Night News with Sophia Wenser.
Well, thank you and good evening. Your headlines at 8:01. Andy Burnham has confirmed he wants to run for Parliament following days of speculation after Andrew Gwynn stood down as an MP on health grounds. There are fears among the Prime Minister's supporters that Mr Burnham could mount a future challenge to his leadership. Burnham, who is currently Mayor of Greater Manchester, has insisted that he wants to back the Labour government, not undermine it. As a directly elected mayor, Burnham has to get approval from Labour's ruling National Executive Committee before he can enter the race to be the party's candidate. That decision is expected tomorrow. The man shot dead by ICE agents in Minneapolis is believed to be a 37-year-old white man who was a Minneapolis resident and a US citizen. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has been giving an update in the last few minutes, calling on Trump to end the immigration enforcement operations in the state immediately. Meanwhile, the Department of Homeland Security has said the man who was shot had wanted to massacre law enforcement. And President Donald Trump accused the mayor of Minneapolis and Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz, of fomenting an insurrection. The reported shooting comes just over 2 weeks since Renee Nicole Good was shot dead by an ICE agent in Minneapolis. In other news, US President Donald Trump has paid tribute to the great and very brave soldiers of the United Kingdom after previously claiming NATO allies stayed away from the front lines during the war in Afghanistan. It comes after the Prime Minister raised Mr. Trump's comments directly to him in a conversation today. Sir Keir Starmer had called the remarks insulting and frankly appalling, while Prince Harry also defended the bravery of UK troops. On Truth Social, the US president said Britons were among the greatest of all warriors, as he acknowledged the 457 who died and many who were badly injured. Elsewhere, Ukraine's capital has come under what the mayor has described as a massive attack, cutting power to 1.2 million buildings nationwide. Explosions were heard in Kyiv and Kharkiv, with authorities reporting that at least one person has been killed and 15 others injured. The latest attack comes after the first direct talks between Ukraine and Russia on the US plan to end the war. The talks in Abu Dhabi were called productive, but all that has emerged so far is further talks. And a German football executive has urged Europe to boycott the 2026 FIFA World Cup after Donald Trump's rhetoric over Greenland and broader foreign policy. Urke Göttlich, a vice president of the German Football Association, said in an interview with German media that the time had come to seriously consider and discuss a boycott. He compared the current moment to the Cold War-era Olympic boycotts of the 1980s. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to the Saturday 5.
Thank you, Sophia. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Saturday 5 Extra. We're going to let our hair down. Anything can happen. We have a wonderful debutante. I'm a tad starstruck, actually. AJ Pritchard, welcome to the Saturday 5.
No, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here, and it's an exciting day. I've hopefully found my wedding venue, so I'm on high spirits right now.
Wowie kazoom. Anything you want to say to your bride-to-be in national television?
Oh, so obviously, I love you very much, and have a great dinner.
No pressure on you for the first dance, then.
I know. We picked the venue, we picked the area, and she said, we haven't started dancing yet. I'm like, don't worry, we'll get there, it'll happen.
Yeah. Hang on, so you've found your venue for June? That's soon.
That's really good going.
I mean, on a Monday, you can pretty much get anywhere these days, I find.
I like it, last-minute planning. And at least you didn't call the wedding off on TV, so I'm also, that saved it potentially.
It's a positive side.
Saved an awkward moment for us. It's now time to have your say in Ask the Five, ladies and gentlemen. The first question comes from Jack, who has sent us this question.
With the government producing reports detailing the risks associated with biodiversity loss and the UK food production system, and the fact that nearly half of the food that we eat in the UK presently is imported, what are any of the major political parties proposing to do about this lack of self-sufficiency in the realm of food production?
Oh, well, interesting question from Jack there. And the beauty of being host tonight is when you have absolutely no idea about a topic, you can just pass it off to someone else. Renee, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I think, Jack, it's an absolutely brilliant question, and it's something that really, really worries me all of the time, because we're moving into a world that is much more volatile. We don't know where things are going to go in the future in terms of our energy efficiency and our food supply, and it's really important. Can we feed ourselves if China turn all the lights off?
AJ, what do you make of this?
I think for me it's always about investment, and within the UK market right now it's quite hard to invest as a company. So whether that be growing, whatever be food supply, energy, it's sad that we actually think about the offshoring rather than onshoring, and that's what's really worrying. we have an investment company, we want to employ people, we want to create AI, really large language models, but we're competing against people that really have investment and strengths that we don't have in the UK market.
Kai, I think one of the reasons why the UK is behind much of the rest of the world is because of the crippling environment to actually run a business, to actually produce anything in this country now as a result of Labor's tax regime. What do you make of this?
I don't necessarily think it's the tax regime. I think it's also to do with, yes, soaring industrial energy costs, stuff like that. You know,
why are energy costs soaring?
To our supply. Well, that's actually a complicated issue that I can't put into 5 seconds,
But is it
as
not
you well
also-
know. But to your point, though, just briefly. Environmental concerns like biodiversity loss, the degradation of our soil, stuff like that are difficult to see. We don't see under the surface, but actually are the impact of many years of not actually caring about the environment, dismissing claims of climate change. We're going to see more and more of this in the next few decades.
But can I just speak to this? If anybody actually went to see the very depressing oceans recently, which I did because I wanted Alice to see it, the mass fishing around the world that we have shipped out by globalisation, destroying the seas and the sea bottom, could actually be reversed. So we only need to actually isolate 30% of the world's seas and leave it for 5 years and it completely replenishes itself. The UK Labour government, when this came to a vote recently, declined to do it. There are things that we could be doing, and I don't think this government, and I must be honest, Jack, I don't think any government is suitably invested in it. We've gone for cheap food, cheap labour all around.
That's it. I actually worry about the importation of a lot of American food, a lot of that, what we would call Frankenstein food. I think that's a worry, because we're going to be eating more and more garbage, I think.
Plus,
Not
I think
if you cook it yourself.
I think the one thing with farmers as well is like the regulations, the amount of absolutely pesticides that they have to fertilise everything with. If we actually were actually, let's listen to the farmers, what works, what doesn't work, that's horrendous. So therefore, whether we're bringing food in from America, it doesn't really matter. If our soils are just worthless and there's no life there.
And also, AJ, if our massive supermarkets are paying farmers 1 pence to produce a litre of milk, you know, they make it uneconomic for farmers in this country.
Can I just point out that all of these are criticisms of capitalism? So there we go. You heard it here first from Dr. Renee.
Legislation on legislation.
I think criticisms of globalisation.
Yeah, all right. Before Karl Marx goes on another rant in the corner over there, we're going to move to Nadia, who has asked, with the Conservatives rising in the polls, does Kemi Badenoch still have a chance at winning the keys to number 10? And should Reform and Nigel Farage be concerned? Nadia, ever the optimist, I would note that it is perhaps a modest rise in the polls, but she's right, there has probably been a bit of an uptick. Trey, should Nigel Farage be afraid of the Conservatives?
Absolutely. I think Kemi's been doing amazingly well, and it's probably going to split the vote on the right, especially if you've got, Labour and potentially the Greens joining forces and going against Reform. I think it's a real worry. And well done, Kemi, as well, because they wrote her off for so long.
I think what it does is it will tell Kemi that she's going to have to do a deal with Reform at some point.
Do you think she'll do it?
That's what it does. She's not going to win the keys to number 10. No one's going to forgive the Tories that much.
Not this next election.
Yeah.
But eventually, political memories are short.
Well, look, it may not be in the hands of Kemi Badenoch whether or not an offer of some sort of agreement is on the table with Reform. They are still well and truly looking at winning in their own right. And I imagine if they can't quite get to that magic seat number, their first plan of attack will be to try and poach a few Conservative MPs and bring them into Reform, as opposed to doing any sort of deal. AJ, what do you make of it?
I think for me it's always about creating a plan and sticking to it. And what Reform have done is kind of stuck to that plan of what they want with their policies. When you start talking about Labour and the Green Party coming together, I'm like, whew, that sounds like a disaster in the sense of it. God knows what them policies will be or who will be saying what.
You've got a long way on this show, AJ.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening there.
I think we're all worried at that.
You know what, though? Should Nigel Farage be concerned? Yes, because I think, as much as I think they have a really good shot in the next general election, Nigel Farage and Reform shouldn't be complacent.
But what point be concerned?
They shouldn't be complacent, because to win a general election in this country, you need a ground game, you need to turn out your supporters, you need momentum, you need local support, all of that, and policies and all that stuff. They're trying to do that work, but they've not got that much time.
Or, as Labour discovered, you just need people to hate the incumbent so much.
Yeah. Sometimes you can be quiet and you can let them do it for you.
Look, I noted Dominic Cummings' comments on Michael Gove's new podcast the other week when he was asked about what voters in focus groups were saying about the Conservatives. And he was basically saying that they've moved beyond anger to just an apathy. They just don't factor into people's lives anymore. And I noticed Michael Gove said, so they're a bit like an old Labrador sitting in the corner of the house that, doesn't get the attention that it once did. And Cummings went, no. Think of them more like the kind of town vagrant that used to smash up all the shops but is now in a wheelchair sitting kind of somewhere on the side of the road and has no impact on that town. There is no love or, sort of old affection for the Conservative Party, and the pursed lips of Michael Gove going, oh, well, I think that speaks to potentially the fact that the Conservatives now are just not in the public opinion anymore. They're not part of the debate, which is arguably even more dangerous than hatred.
I think I agree. The problem is when you death spiral to the point where people don't even think of you, then you're in real trouble. And that's how I see that the Tories could end up disappearing. Or disappearing for a long time.
We have another question. It's a video question coming through from Julie.
Good evening, panel. So, Victoria Beckham got her first UK #1 this week on the iTunes chart due to The Power of the People. What would you like the Power of the People to tackle next? Personally, I would like them to make curly whirlies the same size they were when I was at school, and not the little wings we've got now. What would you like the Power of the People to tackle next?
Very good. And I like the recognition of the 4D chess from the Beckhams getting Victoria back to #1 where she belongs. Kai?
Can I just say I back Julie's campaign, the new campaign to get curly whirlies to the same size as they always were. Can I just add into the mix Freddo's back to 5p and Quality Street to get rid of that rubbish paper wrapping and back to the nice shiny stuff?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
AJ, what is your campaign for the nation?
I think it's simple. Like, everybody talks about social media and this hatred towards certain platforms. Just delete your account, make a stance, find somewhere else to go and post your stuff, feel comfortable. There are other companies out there like We Are 8. Do it, make the stance. Don't just keep being like, complaining about the same thing each week. Just be the person. That's the only thing that's going to make a difference to these big companies.
Well, people are desperate to hear from us.
I'll put my voice behind a campaign I saw on social media the other day for the 4th plinth in Trafalgar Square to be Athelstan. So Athelstan, of course, the first king of England. It is the 100th anniversary of the formation of the great country of England. Athelstan was the first king. We need to get a mighty 50-metre high statue of Athelstan on that 4th plinth.
Was he trans? Because he won't get on there unless
this
he
is the problem. That 4th plinth has been used for modernist, progressive, woke nonsense for too long.
Didn't have an ice cream on it.
It wasn't even a very good ice cream, was it, tonight? It was very annoying.
All that rubbish. I say put Athelstan on the plinth in 2027.
I think everyone that actually watched Vikings would probably agree with you, actually. A lot of people don't realise.
Well, I was just going to say, wasn't he quite brutal?
I mean, everyone was brutal at that point.
I didn't realise he was such an Athelstan stan.
Yes, he was brutal.
Awesome,
he was wonderfully brutal, as all the great kings and queens of England have been. I think Chuck could actually learn a bit from Athelstan. Coming up, Sinners has smashed Oscar records with 16 Oscar nominations, but I think there's a bit more to this story than just artistic wizardry. We're going to be talking about that after the break.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Smith right now. Jordan, look at that smile. I bet that hasn't come off your face since yesterday. Many congratulations.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me, guys. Yeah, I've been smiling the whole time for the last 24 hours. It's just been
Obviously, I would imagine that winning the money is the greatest thing, but what was it like being out there? You're in Rod Laver, the main court there in Melbourne. You're playing the world's greatest players. What did it feel like?
Yeah, it was a dream come true. Obviously, as a kid, being a tennis player, coming from Sydney in Australia, just dreaming of being in a Grand Slam or anything like that. Just never could imagine that this happened, and I never would have thought it would be a 1-point slam. Like, it's just an amazing concept, amazing idea, and yeah, it's just I just got to pinch myself, and hasn't really sunk in yet.
Now, here's Sinner. Here's the Yannick Sinner game. Now, How did this begin? So, did you actually win the rock paper scissors to have him serve first?
Yeah, that was my tactic. Yeah, I decided. Yeah, I did win the rock paper scissors, and yeah, I was just noticing that a lot of the top pros were quite nervous because they get one serve.
Yeah.
So they were sort of panicking, and they always chose to receive. And they sort of mentioned just sort of little words about just sort of not wanting to double fault. And I guess everyone might have thought that a pro would take it out. But yeah, I guess everyone has a chance. And it was amazing that, yeah, I just took it 1 point at a time. It was cliche, but I just enjoyed the moment. I sort of tried to look at my family and friends and sort of smile and wave. And yeah, as I said, I couldn't take the smile off my face. And I was in disbelief at the end.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5 Extra, ladies and gentlemen. What you are seeing are live pictures coming out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, where a 37-year-old man has been fatally shot in an altercation with ICE agents. We are aware from commentary from the Department of Homeland Security that the man was armed with a gun and 2 magazines. In previous footage, we have seen what appeared to be tear gas being used in order to try and dispel protesters. What you're watching now appears to be a bunch of protesters who are bashing drums. They're standing on barricades. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. It is a powder keg situation in Minneapolis. AJ, what have you made of this footage as you've seen it roll in?
I think it's upsetting in so many different ways. Like, people on both sides, it's very tense and people are trying to calm the situation. But unfortunately, in this situation, it looks like it's only going to get worse before it's going to get better.
Trey, we are, again, it doesn't look like this is abating anytime soon. What do you make of what we're seeing, and do you think that this has the potential to escalate further?
Absolutely, and I know I say it again and again, I'm quite famous for saying this, it's a lack of leadership, and that's why I'm not one of these people that hates Trump. I'm disappointed in Trump, because he could easily de-escalate this by actually coming and appealing to all the people. Yeah. It's the same thing with the British soldiers. He could have actually said it in person rather than wrote it down. You need a leader to be like, guys, we are doing this. Obama did 3 million. We've actually done less than Obama. We need some sort of unity on both sides so people understand that ICE is just doing their job, but they're not doing it in a way that just completely trounces people's constitutional rights. That's the issue. Right. Nobody's coming out and trying to...
clarity.
No one's doing it.
You talk big about leadership, but you say, oh, I don't hate Trump. You have to call him out for what he is. He is an autocrat.
No,
he is a mad king.
Where does it get you? But where does it get you?
It's fact, and we saw that on the world. We saw that on the world stage this week. And actually, what Gavin Newsom said that we looked at in the final hour just there, right, about world leaders needing knee pads, calling out the complicity. Frankly, we might as well have had knee pads here on the panel last week when we were talking about Greenland. And may I remind you, Will Kingston, you said, "Make Greenland America again," or some such nonsense. I mean, when will we actually reckon with the fact that this is a man of increasing age, of declining health, who was crazy to begin with, is mad now, and is causing almost a civil war in the United States.
But this is what I say, though. Where would it get you? He's in power. He won't care. Speaking to him like that. And I think that's one of the problems. People on the left are just, I hate Trump. But it's not going to make a difference. But his base loved that.
But
so how are you going to make a difference?
Well, maybe at least we can have conversations where we're not talking about on both sides and blaming leftist activists who don't have the power of the state behind them.
But we have seen, haven't we, Kai? I know you're getting upset, but we have seen...
I'm not getting upset.
Over the last 2 years, we've seen the same people, these activists, come out to protest against Palestine, to protest against the environment, to now to protest against ICE. There is this whole feeling on the left, whether you like it or not, that the only way to win your cause is to protest, and quite often in a violent way. We are not seeing the right do that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point from Renee.
Can you show us any examples of in a violent way?
We will move on. We'll move on for now, but we will return to this story because it is certainly not over. We will continue to keep you abreast of updates in Minneapolis as they emerge throughout the evening. Now, you may have missed it this week, and we can't blame you, but the Academy Award nominations have been released and history has been made. Ryan Coogler's Sinners is now the most nominated film in history, with 16 nods all up. That puts it well ahead of some of the films you may be more familiar with: Titanic, Lord of the Rings, Gone with the Wind, Citizen Kane, and now a vampire horror flick, Sinners. So, is Sinners really one of the greatest films of all time, or is there something else at play here? To discuss, I am delighted to welcome showbiz journalist Sarah Louise Roberts. Sarah Louise, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this evening. Now, I mentioned a few wonderful films from Hollywood's past. I don't think
golden era.
That's exactly right. I don't think anyone really is putting Sinners in the category of those great films. So what's going on here? Why are they now statistically the most successful, at least when it comes to nominations, film in the history of the Academy Awards?
Well, you say that. I mean, this is a film, it's critically acclaimed, but it is a film that has divided people with the number of Oscar nominations it has received. As you say, it's made history with 16 nods, beating, the likes of Titanic, which got 14 back in the day. La La Land got 14, and then that classic 1950s classic All About Eve, that also got 14 nods. But I think what it is about this film, what people do like about it, it's amazing that it's held on to the momentum, because it came out in spring last year. So it shows it was a hit with viewers, that it's held on to that momentum to obviously propel it into all these nominations. But I think what people have liked about it is it's sort of mixing this genre of like blending horror with kind of 1930s Mississippi. Social polemic, talking about what was going on at that time, which was obviously such an important time in American history. And that's something I think that has resonated with its fans, with watchers. So you're kind of seeing this like kind of backdrop, but then like taking these really kind of clever elements of what it's done with the cinematography, with the story, with the music, and blended it all together. So I think that's what has like worked well with voters. And some people have said these are the kind of films now that are flying in with the Academy. Another surprise was the fact that F1, Brad Pitt's film about Formula One, that got a Best Picture nomination, and people were quite shocked at that.
We will get to that one, but I'm going to drag you into murkier waters, Sarah Louise, because I did see the film, and look, everything you've said about it I think is true. It was perfectly adequate. But we all know the elephant in the room is that it is an all-black cast and largely kind of black team behind the scenes. Many people have said that the Academy, which is notoriously progressive in its views, has gone along with this as a nod to racial identity politics in the United States rather than for the artistic merit of the movie. What do you make of that particular accusation against the Academy?
Well, it's an interesting discussion point. It is, and obviously it's something that inflames people's opinions, doesn't it? Because we are living in quite divisive times. But I think it's good that we're seeing more diversity. We've been crying out for diversity within the cinema for a long, long, long time. And how many films thousands of films have been made in the past, which are an all-white cast, and no one said anything about them. So why not? Why not just embrace this? I didn't even think about it when I was watching it. I was just fascinated by what was going on screen. And I'm a big fan of Michael B. Jordan. I think he's an absolutely incredibly powerful actor and talent, and also very easy on the eye, which helps watching him. But, you know, I do get what you're saying. Like, some people could say it could be a box-ticking exercise. But I think we're past that now. I think we've evolved past those sort of basic arguments. I think let's just take it for what it is, the film itself, and let's just judge it on the merits of the film.
Are we past it, though? Because I recall, and I believe that they're still in place, that this was, 5 to 10 years ago now, maybe 5 years ago, the Academy put in place quotas that a film had to tick a particular diversity requirement in order for it to be considered for Academy Award nomination. So it is still obviously in some way a part of the criteria by which the Academy looks at films. So I guess the question would be, do you think that the artistic merit of these films should be in part judged by the political messages they are trying to send, or do you think it should just be on the whether it's a good film or not?
I think it should be whether it should be a good film or not. That's just the common sense answer to that. But in saying that, sometimes what are films? They hold a mirror up to ourselves, don't they? They tell us stories that we identify with, that speaks to something within us. That's what films do. They take you to another place, another time in history, another part of history, and get you to think about that in a sort of more meaningful way than what any time you would give it. So a chance to switch off as well. People go to the cinema for many different reasons. But as I go back to my original point, films, they do, that throughout history, they hold a mirror up to society and do reflect the times that we are in. And I think that film deserves to be made, and it has been made, and credit to them. And look, it deserves to get nods. Does it deserve to get 16? I don't know. That's what the voters have gone for. But would we have been making such a big cry about it if it wasn't all black? I'm just wondering, like, what kind of point you're trying to make here.
I'm effectively saying I don't think the film was good enough to justify the critical acclaim that it has got, and I think the reason it's got that critical acclaim is for political reasons as opposed to artistic reasons. But I think Trey, who's got a question for you, may disagree with that.
Okay.
Well, yeah, of course I disagree with it. I mean, it's as a musician, it's a film that actually explores things like a musician that sells his soul to the devil in order to become the best. And people don't realise the evolution of blues music. Without the blues, there's no Elvis Presley, there's no Beatles, there's none of this modern music. And I think that film was an absolute masterpiece, but both in its storytelling, in the actor playing two different roles, in the cinematography, in the music, in the pacing of it, the fact that they blended all these genres, you know, a bit of the Southern American history with this whole vampire genre. I think it was brilliant. Do you think it's just the case that some people just view films from this sort of ideological, sort of political viewpoint, rather than just look at art for itself and just enjoying it, or not?
I agree with you, Trey, wholeheartedly with your summing up there. I think you've hit the nail on the head. And I think that is the case. I think sometimes you just find that people do want to come out with something that is like shocking or divisive instead of just actually, as you say, sitting back and just watching a greatly made film, which offers so many different elements. And it is clever. Nothing like this has been done before. So let's give Coogler and Michael B. Jordan their credit for doing something new.
Absolutely.
And that's what films are about. They're about giving us something new, not always, but trying new genres, trying new things, trying new techniques and seeing what flies. And listen, this is flowing in. There's 11,000 people vote in these Oscar nominations, 11,000 voters. 25% of those voters are from outside the USA, which is interesting in itself. So that, you know, just shows that worldwide audiences are wanting to see these kind of films.
Kai?
Yeah, definitely. Can I posit another potential explanation for all this? I think one that will satisfy Will and maybe yourself, Sarah Louise. Isn't it just that Hollywood has run out of ideas? That's why this has done so well. There's a lack of originality. We're seeing sequels. People are getting tired of that. They want something different.
They do want something different, and it's interesting you've mentioned the word sequel, because that'll bring you to what was one of the big surprises from the Oscar nominations, was that the sequel to Wicked, now the first Wicked got 10 nominations, The sequel, zero, nada.
Because it was
nothing.
rubbish.
That was a load of crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed with you there. It was abysmal. Not even Cynthia O'Vera could save it. But there you go. So that was a sequel that didn't work. So people are tired of the sequels, and Hollywood has been a bit tired of late. It has been doing these, just easy tropes, easy kind of movies that just things that are going to make them money. Because let's face it, films are struggling with the rise in streaming, with the rise in social media. So people's attention spans. What was it they were saying? They've had to dilute scripts, water them down, because we're in the TikTok generation now, and they just want things that are easy, that are easy to understand. So plots aren't as complicated as they used to be. So look, there's massive changes in films. And I think that's the reason why F1's done well, because it's what I would call a pizza and beer movie.
Yeah.
You come in, get your pizza, put it on, zone out to it. You know what you're going to get with Brad Pitt.
But it was also rubbish.
Well, I think
that's what the beer is for.
Unfortunately, we'll leave.
I think it's really nice to hear what Trey said. Like, kind of like for me, like when you hear somebody's got loads of awards, it's usually like this is going to be a load of crap. But actually, listening to you passionately talk about it, I feel like now I need to have this new cinematography, storytelling artwork, as you said. Like that's exciting for me. But when there's loads of awards, nah.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust his opinion always.
All right, and I apologise for AJ's very passionate language. It's no doubt an emotive topic. Sarah Louise, thank you so much for joining us. Yes, perhaps I am overlooking a cinemap masterpiece.
Have you not seen it?
I have seen it, and it's bung ordinary. But anyway,
I'll watch it later.
Now. Coming up, ladies and gentlemen, the ocean cleanup targets 30 cities to cut river plastic by a third by 2030. Now that is actually something that can be celebrated. You're with the Saturday 5 Extra live on GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, are you heading away this weekend? Storm Ingrid is bringing some very unsettled weather to Portugal and Spain. It's pretty wet and windy elsewhere too. The Canary Islands, though, still seeing plenty of dry weather, not especially warm, however. Very wet weather into Spain and Portugal, and some unsettled weather, thunderstorms across parts of Italy as well as the Balkans. It does look drier, though, towards Greece for the weekend. That wet weather will push eastwards later, though. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Often cloudy with spells of rain over the coming days, with some localised flooding possible, particularly where we have Met Office weather warnings issued. And there is some more wet and windy weather to come as we head into next week. And it's all down to areas of low pressure, one by one, swinging in from the North Atlantic. And even this area of low pressure here this evening will still continue to bring spells of rain across parts of Wales and then later on into Northern Ireland. Still could create some difficult driving conditions and some localised flooding. We'll see a brief dry spell across parts of the southwest before another band of heavy showers starts to move through, and for many areas of the country it is going to be wet and quite cloudy, and possibly even some snow across high ground in Scotland. This leads us into Sunday, and once again it is going to be very unsettled. Across Scotland there will be some spells of rain, this turning to hill snow, perhaps a little dry across the very far north of Scotland, away from any showers in the Northern Isles. Northern Ireland will see some spells of rain, this could be heavy at times, similar across northern parts of England. And then we've got this very heavy band of showers slowly skirting its way eastwards in from the southwest. So Sunday, yes, there will be more clouds, some spells of rain, and quite blustery at times, particularly around western coast, though winds generally easing through the course of the day. But under cloud, under any spells of rain, it is going to be feeling that much chillier, particularly around any eastern coasts. Quite a brisk easterly breeze coming in here, adding on to the chill of things. But otherwise, temperatures themselves around about average for the time of year, highs reaching around 8 degrees Celsius in the south. Into Monday, a drier start for some. Plenty of showers, though, feeding into northeastern coast, still falling as snow across parts of Scotland. Then another band of very wet and windy weather starting to push in from the west. This too later on could bring us some hill snow across Scotland and northern parts of England. It's going to remain unsettled into next week. Another area of low pressure hitting us on Tuesday and feeling very cold.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5 Extra, ladies and gentlemen. It's now time for High Five, where we discuss our favourite moments from the past week. My high five is one that is tinged with sadness. There have been a string of shark attacks, 4 at last count, in the last week in New South Wales. Unprecedented in my lifetime in Sydney. And tragically, a young 12-year-old boy has passed away after one of those shark attacks. And it looked very likely that a second man, a 27-year-old man, would follow. He was given a 5% chance of survival after being attacked by a shark near Manly Beach. I used to live just near Manly Beach when in my early 20s. The Andre de Ruyter was his name. He was mauled by a shark on Monday evening. He received a huge gash on his right leg as he was dragged to shore by passers-by. He yelled to the passers-by, "Tourniquet, tourniquet," to try and stop the bleeding. But at that stage, it looked very likely that he would lose his life. At that moment, just by chance, Brian Burns, who is, I am told, one of Australia's leading experts in pre-hospital trauma care, happened to be on the beach at that very moment. Wow. And now, if you want anyone in the world to be on the beach after a shark attack, you probably want the country's leading expert in pre-hospital trauma care. He attended to Andre and miraculously ended up saving his life. He unfortunately has had to have his leg amputated, but he will live. And look, whether you are religious or not religious, that sort of serendipity in a moment like that is miraculous. And look, it's just a wonderful, wonderful relief that that person was there at that time and managed to save a life.
Wasn't that just like the footballer who had a cardiac arrest on field and there was in the crowd, I think it was at Arsenal, one of the world leading cardiologists who saved his life? Yeah, you're right. I mean, these things happen and it is miraculous.
It is. Have you ever been in that situation, imagine not with a shark, but where you've been just a passerby in that moment and you have been the person called upon?
Yes. A couple of times, and once somebody died and once they didn't.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, you did CPR on me right down in front of this desk.
And you survived.
Yeah,
what a shame. What a shame. How different it could have been.
Goes. Anyway, what have you got for us, Renee? What's your high
So
five?
everybody will remember Emily Damari, the British woman who was held hostage by Hamas for 471 days. She lost 2 of her fingers because they shot her in the hand and in her leg. She hid her sexuality from Hamas. She was a lesbian. She is a lesbian for that entire time because she said being gay to Hamas is worse than being Jewish. So she hid that, and she this week proposed to her fiancé on the year anniversary of being released. And I think
good on her.
That is a fantastic story. Good on her. She's living her life after such trauma. And for all of those queers for Palestine, be careful what you wish for.
Exactly right. What a great up yours to those monsters as well. That is lovely. Congratulations.
There she is.
Amazing.
Yeah, congratulations to Emily and to her partner. Wow. That is their engagement party, and it looks like they had an absolute whale of a time. AJ, what have you got for us?
Well, I feel like my high five is I haven't gone for a positive thing. I've gone for a tweet that's kind of slightly infuriated me, to be honest. I know, I'm bringing it down, it's up, it's what's happening. No, fundamentally, it was a tweet that was from an MP, and it was talking about the CEO of Lloyds Bank, fundamentally saying that people feel better off.
Yeah.
And they feel like they are actually being able to pay down their debts. And this is coming from the CEO of Lloyds Bank that last year, with compensation, made nearly $6 million, whose stock options over the past year went up 65%, and over the past 5 years, 200% nearly.
High five to him!
High five to him. Like, he's killing it. Like, congratulations, mate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, most of us in the real world feel like the bills are hard, the energies, it's really not that easy.
I
feel like
see the comments on that tweet.
putting everybody into one bucket is the problem. Like, some people are doing well, yes, but a lot of people, like, it's very tough out there. It's really hard.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've got the wrong end of the high five. But a high five for him.
We are very lucky that AJ is back next week. We'll work on the high five tone.
It can only get better.
Trey, what have you got for us?
So I'm literally going back to the film Sinners, and I'm going to the director of that film, Ryan Coogler. And what I love about this story, and it's not a debate on whether the film's woke or not.
It will become one, don't you worry.
Got nothing about that. I think it's the story of an ordinary young boy in California who had a scholarship to play football, and a professor said to him, "You are really good at writing, you should pursue that." And I think that kind of mentoring, something that a lot of young men, a lot of young boys don't have. And of course, he went on to produce some incredible films like Sinner, like Black Panthers. He's made hundreds of millions. But I think it's the power of mentorship and the power of fermenting creativity, especially in young men. It's something that we don't see much. And I think that's very much a high-five story, because this producer, director, writer has gone on to be an absolute role model for so many people out there who thought they don't have what it takes to actually be really great. He's not part of that Hollywood elite. He's literally from the outside, and he's completely flipped the script. So I think it's a great high five.
Well, whatever you think of the film, it is no doubt a wonderful story, and I do think he's made a couple of cracking films. The Creed ones, the follow-up to the Rocky franchise, I thought were great fun.
Really good. And Black Panther.
Black Panther
was amazing.
Black Panther's amazing. Yeah. I was confused. I thought you were explaining the plot of the film. Just an ordinary guy who turns out to be a vampire.
The movie, I mean, it's amazing. It would have just been one of these guys that play football that probably would have failed, because most people would do, but went on to be an incredible director.
Yeah.
Kyle, your high five, please.
My high five is about not so small anymore startup that I've come into contact with in some of my time in the tech industry. The Ocean Cleanup, run by Boyan Slat, has shown incredible progress in the past few years, getting rid of plastic out of our oceans. To date, they've prevented 29 million kilograms of trash from reaching the ocean. They're currently intercepting 1 to 3% of global riverborne plastic emissions, and they could get to a third. I think that's amazing.
1 to 3% of all riverborne plastic. Well, but no, I actually think that's extraordinary. That one startup has managed to get to that number. This is, Kai, a genuinely great story. I agree. One of my concerns, one of many, with the climate scam is that it is forcing us to talk about some potential nebulous problem in the far future at the expense of practical environmentalism in the here and now. And this is a great example of practical environmentalism in the here and now.
And we can all get behind this. Whatever we feel about the climate story, we can all get behind these things. As I said with the oceans, these are the things we should be caring about, looking after the planet that we've got.
Well said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coming up after the break, ladies and gentlemen.
I never once promised we could cut council tax. You've got to cut taxes.
Cut taxes.
Lower taxes.
We will cut taxes. We can do better for council taxpayers.
Several of them said that committed
Not
to it.
true.
Trail.
No prizes for guessing whose tantrum that is. That'll be coming up shortly on the People's Channel, GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays, I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5 Extra, ladies and gentlemen. A reminder of the news that's been breaking over the course of the evening. Donald Trump has released, I would call, a pseudo-apology after his frankly appalling remarks about British servicemen and women. I believe those comments have united both the left and the right in the United Kingdom. We've had the self-styled King of the North, Andy Burnham, come out say he will nominate for a seat in Parliament in Manchester. That is potentially a threat to the leadership of Keir Starmer if he can enter the Parliament. And of course, a 37-year-old man has lost his life in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in an altercation with ICE, the second such incident that has occurred in the last month. We will continue with our triggered tantrums. Kai, what have you got for us?
Oh, all politicians are the same. They lie, they lie, they lie. I agree. Let's take a look at this.
I never once promised we could cut council tax. You've got to cut taxes.
Cut taxes.
Lower taxes.
We will cut taxes. We can do better for council taxpayers.
Several of them said that committed
Not
to it.
true.
Trail.
No, it's not true.
Warwickshire Reform Party leaflet said, we will cut your taxes. The Worcestershire Party leaflet said, we will reduce waste and cut your taxes. That sounds like promises to cut taxes to me.
We will cut taxes.
Nigel Farage, not to be trusted.
Well, Renee, on a serious note, this is a concern, isn't it? Because we need to cut taxes in this country if we want to go for growth.
We absolutely have to cut taxes. If we're going to get people out there wanting to work because they want to earn more of their money than the government is currently taking, we have to cut taxes.
AJ?
I think it's about, when it comes down to taxes, understanding where the kind of hidden, the secret taxes are, and that's the worrying thing. Like, people think they may be making more money, but realistically, they're worse off. And obviously that clip is very clear about what's been said in that scenario. You can't argue that.
But isn't it? It also shows, doesn't it, that the realities of governing, as Reformer found out in local government, are a bit more difficult than pot shots from the side. And that's why it's easier for them to make arguments that they make rather than Tories and Labour, who fundamentally have been in government before.
I think it is, but most of local government spending is mandated from central government anyway, so it's completely out of their power. And because we've got things like ADHD diagnosis going through the roof,
They should have known that
I
before.
think I think to your point, I think it is fair to say this is the year that we need to get more meat on the bone of Reform's economic policy agenda. AJ, what have you got for us with your trigger tantrum?
I've got lawless London, so scary scenes of a Rolex store being ransacked at 11 a.m. in Knightsbridge. It's, as you can see there, it's out of control. To think how brazen you have to be to turn up, 5 of you on 2 or so mopeds, literally with full-on machetes, swords, going in, stealing your Rolexes, being in and out, and probably going to get away with it, unfortunately, where you've kind of got the security guards can't really do much there. They got some umbrellas from the hotel next door to try and wave them off, and you are in central London, Hyde Park, One Hyde Park, supposedly the most secure flats in the whole of the country.
I guess what they could do, if they wanted to make it easier on themselves and not have to plan it so well, is just do what they're going to do to Marks and Spencer's next month. And a load of posh boys from private school are going to turn up and ransack Marks and Spencer's, apparently. They're advertising it, they're telling people in advance. Yeah, apparently they're going to empty it to give back power to the people. So they could do that for the Rolex store.
You and I might
well,
be
to be honest,
triple chocolate
in Mayfair the other day, YSL, that got hit the other night.
I think one of the problems is, and I've said it before, there's not enough visible policing. That's one of the issues. I just don't see police anymore.
Well, the irony of that scenario, what you just said, I walked down past there to go to Pilates the other day, and I saw 4 bobbies on the trot going around in circles. I was like, oh, it's a bit late for that right now, isn't it? But it looks nice.
Yeah, people like it, though. People like visible presence.
GB News regular Peter Blexley has talked about this, how there has been a conscious effort to take police off the streets and into more administrative roles, and we've seen the impact that has had on safety in London. I'm sure there is a gaslighting letter from Sadiq Khan to follow on how London has never been safer or better. And no, Kai, you cannot speak because we are heading to the wonderful Alex Armstrong. It's been a lovely evening tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your company. Thank you to my wonderful panel, and we will be back for you next Saturday night. The great Alex Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Will. I've got a massive show for you coming up tonight. Layla Cunningham's coming in to talk about this left-wing attack on her by the Mirror, and it's obviously been going around in the press. She's going to be joining me to talk about those allegations. We're also going to be asking whether Keir Starmer is feeling the Burnham. Oh, Labour civil war is really going to heat up. A delegation from Chagos as well. They're going to be speaking to President Trump next week. They're coming in to tell me about their strategy. And George Finch from Reform UK is talking about Reform students being punished. I will see you all very shortly.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Often cloudy with spells of rain over the coming days, with some localised flooding possible, particularly where we have Met Office weather warnings issued. And there is some more wet and windy weather to come as we head into next week. And it's all down to areas of low pressure, one by one, swinging in from the North Atlantic. And even this area of low pressure here this evening will still continue to bring spells of rain across parts of Wales and then later on into Northern Ireland. Still could create some difficult driving conditions and some localised flooding. We'll see a brief dry spell across parts of the southwest before another band of heavy showers starts to move through, and for many areas of the country it is going to be wet and quite cloudy, and possibly even some snow across high ground in Scotland. This leads us into Sunday, and once again it is going to be very unsettled. Across Scotland there will be some spells of rain, this turning to hill snow, perhaps a little dry across the very far north of Scotland, away from any showers in the Northern Isles. Northern Ireland will see some spells of rain, this could be heavy at times, similar across northern parts of England. And then we've got this very heavy band of showers slowly skirting its way eastwards in from the southwest. So Sunday, yes, there will be more clouds.